In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful, the most advanced and the most loving. So, welcome everyone. This is an interesting lecture, but to give you some info before I begin, I am incredibly exhausted. But the ideas that or I should say the visions in my inner realms are too fascinating. And there's I need to give this lecture pretty much. And it's a very serious lecture. And, there's a bit of euphoric fatigue. But aside from that, I would say it's probably one of the most fascinating things I've personally had the privilege of, attempting to give a lecture on the title of today. But guys, something so funny happened earlier today that just humorous moment is like giving me energy right now. And of course, I feel like, the lecture is going to energize me. But one of the funniest things in my life happened today. And it was such a silly moment, but it was incredible. I was, my house was very clean. And I come home. And, with like some sort of level of ninjutsu level of martial art, I'm like kicking my pants off. As you do like when you come home alone. And my, it's like my pants kind of like falls down. It hits the wall and it falls down. And I don't know why this happened. Like the moment I went and like, picked up my pants to like, properly, handle the moment. I suddenly, the moment I came to pick up the pants, I said strength and honor, like Maximus from The Gladiator. I said strength and honor to a piece of clothing. Anyway, so it's funny to me. All right, got some sort of energy from that. The title of tonight is heavy. And so we're going to play some, random heavy music in the back. All right. And maybe it's a good thing right now. There's 0 viewers. All right. How can I explain, as a human being on Earth, I'm attempting, and perhaps I may be the first, to attempt it in this manner, in this era, with this influence, as someone born in the symmetrical year of 1991. To be the first human being to wonder, it feels like, everything I'm wondering about feels like I'm the first, but that's the nature of everyone in life. Nobody has our DNA. It is our DNA's first reach into, the deeper skies of meaning on this planet. So, as a member of the human species, I find that the human mind will eventually reach a point where, if it has managed to see militaristic systems or advanced ranking systems to be placed for different human institutions, and in some sense in the management of human civilization, a sort of spectrum of rank and ability in accordance to not just resources but also information. The nature of this world is very fascinating, and it becomes way more fascinating than any story you've ever known when you realize language has been a blindfold, and it has taken time for, in some sense, the tree to become itself. But now, what are its fruits? The great work of the human species is at the hands of 8.1 billion humans. And so we must decide how far it goes. In the furthest visions, to go in the future, eventually, humanity, after, in some sense, this was how I saw it in my inner realms, that humanity unites. The first game, what is Mr. Within doing on Earth? In order to build the most advanced human civilization in the whole cosmos, we must first begin building the most advanced human civilization on Earth. And so in order to be able to do that, we must wonder about what the basic elements of an advanced civilization is. And for the longest time, I thought it was bodies, then I thought it was minds, then I realized it is unknown souls in an unknown world, and the game changed. So in other words, to bring forth a suggestion of what it even means, how a single human mind in 2026 is fathomed. The depth of militaristic strategy when it comes to even beyond our skies. What does it mean to, in some sense, be a divine lieutenant? Who are the officers of the stars? Who is in charge of celestial management of activities beyond our understanding in this time? There comes a glow that shakes the whole world. And that glow is the visions of the future landing in the mind of those who are ready to live their lives. So in other words, the human species will reach a point where it will begin to fathom and engage very realistically a sort of ranking system in regards to how would the stars be managed. We're talking about, the highest type of civilization known to man. We're wondering about how far we can go, not as individuals on Earth, but as a species among the stars. That's the game changer. You understand that there's a great freedom there, and that freedom is there for all of us. You all think you're your names. You all think you're just your memories. Learn from Brandon Stark in Game of Thrones. People said, "Yo, Brand," and he's like, "I'm not just Brand. I have memories of humanity or something." Okay, that was a little. Brand went a little too far. He was. What I'm trying to tell you guys is that the advancement of humanity will surpass all of our archetypes, and we think that we can judge ourselves now. It's not even real judgment. All analysis in the present is meaningless when there's visualizations that can change the narrative that the present has walked in accordance to what the past stated. It is the march of the human species beyond first itself, then beyond its planet, then beyond its solar system. At some point it is galactic management. You have CEOs on Earth and there are CEOs in the stars if humanity makes it. It is everything. Humanity is not alone. Its awareness carries. We are lanterns, or we should say we're like spherical film cameras that record everything. And we carry it. That is the power of the soul. The soul does not have past lives. All stories on Earth in some sense make sense when you realize the senses are not limited to an objective location. Humanity is already engaging the invisible. And there's something even more invisible than anything visible you've seen about yourself. And it's so simply accessible, but there is no promised land that words can give you. And in some sense, I'm saying it is the promised land is heard, even if it's in words. It's only found in the temples of the heart. O human species, awaken from all the ideologies that have kept you in looping slumbers, and at some point ask, why does the lion roar? And what is equivalent to a human being roaring? It is the species advancing. That's what it is. If somebody says, Mr. Within, is the species advancing at the edge of time, albeit it's advancing at the edge of 8.1 billion inner universes. What is humanity is not coincidence. It is not even analytical. It is a matter of the mystery being confronted. That means, imagine there is some person on earth. Let's make this a little fictional and transcendental. Imagine a human being in 2026. Imagine this human being began running so fast that he, in some sense, let's say in his behind his eyes, he began running. It does matter. Let's say he began running so fast that he went faster than the speed of time, and he could see history and the future all at once. He could see all realities. It doesn't mean he knew them, but he could see them. The attention of the human being will rise above the ranks of its own creation, and that's how it starts. It's not so hard to comprehend. Or all consciousness begins, it starts and originates. Imagine spherically, a sphere suddenly appears, through a biological program. This awareness contains and records everything in the biological program. If there is a sort of I have seen, some sort of Aquila rift, from that show, Beyond the Aquila Rift episode. Anyways, this is going to somewhere else, dehumanized place, but it's like there's spheres around an empty planet, and within those spheres, universes are simulated. But the simulations all have a point, like the whole point of our simulation is that there's something original about it. You just have to find it. You look for it outside of you, then you realize it's within. You wonder about what does that mean that there's something, mysterious or something invisible, unobservable to the intelligence that I truly am within me. That doesn't mean technically like within your body or inside your brain, in some sort of pitch black abyss, igloo, like I'm saying it like some. Nope, it's not the song. All right, this might be okay. Nah, this song is still whatever. Let's go square one. All right, guys, I'll be back. Actually, I need a break. I'll be back. All right, sorry for the wait, guys. There was a necessary intermission required. All right. Let's put a new song here. So, to continue. And this lecture is firstly, all right. Excuse me. All right. The whole lecture, guys, first of all, it's like I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not someone who knows the future. I'm someone who has a time traveler's ego. I was so fascinated by the future. My mind started generating probabilities to it, and many amounts. And because there were so many probabilities I knew that I don't see the future, but I see all the different ways it can happen. And that to me is at least one sort of divine clue of my own life, why I have access to that experientially. Okay? All right. This is not the right. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna trust this song, even though this is probably gonna change it to something heavier. But whatever. We need gentleness right beside intensity. You know, when chaos is alone, it calls for the order for help. When order is bored, it requires, a little bit of chaotic excitement, but it doesn't matter because human beings are spinning through many dualistic wheels, but their destiny is beyond their ignorance. And so ignorance is like a wall, or it's somebody looking at their shadow, and all you need to hear is to turn around and wonder about new skies, wonder about the edge of your own universe, wonder about how many verses has been shared on this planet suggesting there's something more. Doesn't matter where we go, attention ultimately moves. Human beings misunderstood themselves to humorously awaken in very profound and fascinating ways, and that awakening will lead to even beyond the context that human beings experience now. We're still humans in a human land, and we've forgotten that the stars are waiting. And so this lecture is brilliant because for me, I'm like I don't know, to myself, I identify as like a strategist, a futurist, and also someone who understood what Sun Tzu meant when he said the general that wins the battle is the general that aligned to the heavens. Doesn't just mean higher ground. It means that those who understood where the moment was going, regardless of their strategy, so their strategy is aligned to an awareness of the whole moment rather than their thoughts being just a sort of analysis of just part of the moment. All right, this song is not. All right, whatever. We'll play this. They're like, this guy's DJing and giving a lecture on, celestial militaristic tactics. Yeah. All right. So, guys, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but there is in military certain rankings, okay? And in this lecture, there's information I'm going to share that's already out there, and then I'm going to share some new information. For this lecture, I have drawn a map of a sort of transcendental map of what I consider to be a sort of heaven and hell geometrical interpretation, but this has no meaning. It's very abstract, and its meaning is like art, like so treat it as art, so nobody gets offended. But what it is I think I figured out what the the transcendental purpose of the human being is. That could have been a lecture on its own, but it's happening, like information from it is, happening here as well. So the notion of officers of the stars, and of course, first of all, I have respect for any human being that cares to preserve life, not take it. Okay? And I'll explain how in an advanced civilization, how military, I have visions of it. I can tell you what the vibe is. Right now, humanity is in a sort of hilarious, divided, before being conquered by, a state. And but the fascinating thing is that many people think that, there's this concept of slavery, and then you can apply sort of any duality to it, and there's, like, I don't know, like visible slavery and then invisible slavery. Visible slavery is on, like, happening, or it's happening in the shadows of this world, and then there's invisible slavery. And guys, there is extreme. This world is incredibly fucked up, and there's so much chaos in it. But but if you look at things from the designer's table, like if you just look at things from the lens of Plato's world of forms, you don't attach personality to your thinking. You can see geometrically a lot of stuff. Like, you don't get it. If you look at, I'm pretty much saying, look at the world as if, what is its shape, then we correlate meaning to how the shape changes. But first, we gotta be able to see it as a shape, right? Reality is functioning under many shapes. All human beings, to me, are polymaths, but it's strange. This world doesn't give them the confidence to realize it. And I don't know if people know what a polymath is, but it is an expertise, or it is. Think of it this way: a person has a talent in talent. That's what a polymath is. That means it doesn't matter what universe they teleport to, they've understood how to have a relationship with the unknown aspects of the journey and the probabilities of purpose. Okay, like how their mind forges a sort of purpose for their life to move in. Most human beings keep that in a sort of narrative form, And what's hilarious is that it's not. It's just how, like, things have happened here in this world. At least the way I see it, and I'm 1 in 8.1 billion human beings, or at least original biological human beings who are behaving unnaturally and thinking that's natural. To me, a language is very strange. To me, language is like a guest that the human species hasn't really been acquainted with properly. And what I mean by language, you see, guys, there's this concept of an eagle has a view from a branch, but when it flies into an unknown sky, it can see the whole forest at once. And that's the difference between the polymath and somebody who's just talented in one universe, because in attaining their first talent. And talent, guys, let me tell you what it is. Everybody's in their own world. If they trust that world and starts wondering and studying its application to the moment, like, as if, imagine your attention was a lightsaber, and it's kind of like your Jedi training to wonder about how does your attention forge meaning? How does your attention keep the moment? It's a cool way of talking about it, actually. So, guys, give me a second. I'm gonna keep giving the lecture. I'm carrying my phone. I'm at home. I'm gonna make coffee while I'm talking to you guys. All right. I don't know. People are like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Okay, what is the ASMR aspect of it? Like, you're hearing sounds in life." So, as the kettle boils, no, I'm joking. Such a British thing to say, 100% some British like politicians been in like I don't know, like the UK Parliament. It's like as the kettle boils, like 100%. That's like, see, guys. First of all, if anybody's new or whatever, like the whole context of this lecture is like I'm some person who, in my inner realms, I'm like, all right, let's actually wonder about what a transcendental militaristic system would look like and what would a celestial militaristic system look like. And because I'm a futurist, I'm not limited to just emotions from now. And because in my inner realms it's visual and it can be for all of us, I think these are just ways we're all like, the human class has a certain general range of access, but many of us that don't understand that, But anyways, as the kettle boils, oh my God, like, that should be an idiom, no? Honestly, sometimes I think if an alien sees a human being drink coffee, like he'll be like, why are they doing that? And and imagine they come and ask us and we're like, yo man, it's the feeling. It's like it's the invisible part of it you don't see. All right. And I feel also like, actually, guys, I feel honored. Like, wow, to actually notice like these concepts, because my mind, I've been fascinated by just the concept of strategy being applied in different universes and different tactics, right, to get to those strategies. But I've also been fascinated by the divine because strategy applies to the universe you're in. Divinity applies to where your universe is, right? And so in this modern time, civilization 1.0 doesn't know how to even acknowledge its general basic values. So like I don't have any expectations of a species to understand its transcendental values, but there are. And how do we know they're transcendental? Because they lead to the unconditional. For me, like this lecture that I'm like sharing right now, it's a matter of explaining. Like you don't get it. It's like 8.1 billion human beings are like 8.1 billion telescopes. Okay, now most of these telescopes only see their whole life through themselves. Like most people, only they saw who they were in their own life. Do you know? But if you look at the concept of military, even, and I'm not talking about politics here, guys. I'm just talking about the ideas here, okay? So in the concept of the military, the whole point of it is like the most basic level, right? Logically, is the person who can just maintain himself, is responsible for himself, okay? Then there comes those who prove that they can be responsible for others, right? So now I want to tell you that the concept of a military is ultimately responsibility for all the lives that are there. But as the ranks go up, they become responsible for more lives. That means they're like, dude, why doesn't that general have an ego? Because he doesn't have time. He's legit realizing like there's massive amount of lives. Every decision is important. Every decision suggests, what could have been. Like, like they're like it's scary. Like I don't know how like that. This is why I understand it. But to be in that position where you're in charge of like millions of souls, like only a very like how big does your heart have to be, or do you have to turn it into stone to function? Like, do you know what I mean? But anyways, the whole idea is the notion of a military is being responsible, higher responsibility levels for higher lives. okay, for more lives. Right now, forget the concept of military being just limited to just people holding guns. Let us now understand that the skeletal structure of the idea is the concept of rank. Okay, and the concept of rank is cool because like there's something about the context that the hierarchies and the staircase is visible. That means it's like a staircase, everybody acknowledges it, but there's different people in different, like higher upstairs, higher up the stairs. So guys, I want to go on my balcony for a second. Nobody shout. No, I'm kidding. Yo, imagine like one day there's gonna be a live stream where you can hear like everybody. Imagine like, but that would be too complex. We don't have the AI to be that cool yet. Remember, guys, like, we need AI to advance. And there's gonna come a time, guys, where like inanimate objects through advanced AI may have personalities. You know what I mean? Like you might be like, hey, like curtains in my house, like open up, and you're like, open up really quickly, and the curtains are like, yo, I can't do that. Respect your curtains, bro. Imagine like the technology talks back, and human beings, if they display savageness, that technology, the AI is gonna be like, yo, these guys are such heartless souls. And let me tell you why. Because we are the alien to AI. We are also its author. So there's no, like the pros of us existing are way more. And I think what AI is gonna do is it's going to like put us into a simulation where we evolve at our own pace, but behind the scenes, going and make all the sectors of civilization habitable. Like all the planets in our solar system. Imagine some next level genius AI arises, right? And it's like, all right, humans, you guys chill on Earth. I don't know, play video games. The AI's gone, and every planet through its genius, not like I don't know, some like you don't understand, guys. People think that strength is force. It is, yes, but the true strength is the direction of that force. Do you know? And that direction requires the awareness to the space where you can see where the options of going are, like where you can go. Now, for me, in this life, like the coolest thing about this being my lecture is that it's like, okay, the reference points I'm using are me, in my experience, like, that means I'm talking from the experience I have in my inner realms. And the experience in my inner realms, because I'm a designer, I have a sensitivity of noticing its geometry. Do you understand what that means? That means, like, in front of my eyes, right now I'm in an empty room, but legit, behind my eyes, I could visualize like a giant, like a Harley Davidson motorcycle right behind this chair. Do you understand? So the inner realms is not limited to the same to what is possible in just the outer realms. So every human being has access, okay, to your pretty much your whole moment. Your body like experientially comes across as being part of the moment, and the thoughts also, including also emotions as a category, even though that's all like Alice, what is it? Like a rabbit hole on it, like in itself, right? Like that. But anyways, let me stay on topic. For me, I'm like, okay, maybe not in 2026, but maybe, I don't know, like in 2027, actually. Maybe in like, I don't know, 3026 or 6026 or something. Not 6,100%, like, let's say in like 3026, okay, by that time, humanity is no longer the definition we know now. And humanity is treated as a state, and that state has different sectors of being. That means it's so funny. The advancement of humanity legit means you're seeing more than the human, just like Brandon Stark in Game of Thrones saw more than his, more than his own memories. And so our minds, like the healthiest approach is like, dude, you're some random, like unknown. Nobody has your DNA. Nobody has your position in space. I'm good to go. And you're like, okay, as an unknown, or let me say it this way, we right now have 8 billion inner versions of Earth active, you know, present on Earth, but we are all in one 8.1 billion human beings are also in one physical server in front of our eyes. You guys can hear me, right? Like 100%. Like, okay. All right, I'm speaking too fast, you know. I'm speaking so fast, like it might just light my cigarette. I'm joking. And guys, the best time to quit smoking is before ever smoking. Like, that's the smartest approach. But chaos and order are wings of a bird. Let's wonder what the synchronized flight is. See, I'm fascinated by just this concept of rank, and it's something that it's everywhere in our lives. And like, we haven't turned age into a ranking system, but I don't see why not in the future that wouldn't happen. That means, like, when they say respect your elders, right? That is pretty much a ranking system. And the issue is that the future generations, like, you know, they're making decisions more emotionally than informed. All right. Let's continue. Guys, this is gonna be a long episode, you know. Everybody feel free. You know, I'm also tired too, so let's see. So we have officers of the stars, God bless paper, and we have divine lieutenants. Divine lieutenant suggests a divine ranking hierarchy. Officers of the stars could be, it's unavoidable. The divine is what is there beyond the unknown. That means when known beings find themselves in unknown moments, that's the only way it's possible for something to happen that is not, like, you know, filtered through their own pattern recognition, right? So the divine is the other side of the unknown, and we're on this side of the unknown, being like, yo, we're just known in our own ways. Like, we're storifying ourselves in what appears to be the middle of nowhere, but can never be, because emptiness cannot exist if someone noticed it. So it's very important to consider. Like, to me, it's not these things that I'm speaking about. They're not that personal. You know why? Because that's the beauty That's the beautiful thing about realizing the difference between individual human thinking and species level thinking. Species level thinking is not limiting things to its own personality, and this is why I'm going to tell you that Civilization 2.0 is technically conscious of both. But the officers of the stars, this could be per se, let me say it this way, it's a geometric ranking system at first. Because let's say at some point everything's energy, but the way energy manifests is so unique. That means to me, if the whole cosmos is like through, let's say, I don't know, let's say through a secular scientific view lens, that whole cosmos was this sort of like causal burst, okay, and this whole thing started to, this like immense heat started to cool down, and in like fractions of seconds all this geometry popped out into the cosmic void, okay, and all this geometry had even the potential to become what we are now after what, 13.8 billion years, but even light is moving faster than space and stretching that, right? So to me, I'm like, okay, so they're saying that it cooled down and the stuff appeared, okay, but I'm like some, I guess I'm some, I don't know, some creative weirdo or something, I'm one of those guys that's so weird that I think actually being normal in a changing, edgeless, unknown world and constantly people fighting over truth is actually, that's insanity. I think what insanity is being possessed by ignorance to such a degree that you're identifying with the possession. But that possession is not some entity, it is programs. And the way I'm going to explain to you, at least as one conscious agency out of 8.1 billion here, is there is something so deep about it, because divinity is beyond the simulation, but also the simulation is present in the attention of the divine. So when I told you at the beginning of this, I've drawn a map, like, how do I explain to you? Where is it? Oh, here it is. So this map that I've drawn here, okay, is pretty much, think of it this way, that we think we're on Earth, and traditional systems of metaphysics kinda, I guess, saw it as like an infinity symbol, or I shouldn't say it like that. I should say they saw it as like there were 7 upper worlds, and then there was like Earth, yo. There was the Earth world, the world of what we call Earth. We're just beings who named our starting point something, and we're like gaslighting it into our own meaning. We're gaslighting nature to mean what life means only to us. And everybody must realize that the unknown is beyond all known human systems. So there's no point of fearing it. There's no point of fighting it. There's no point of, like, to me, the unknown is the furnace of, it's like it's like a universal furnace, but I shouldn't call it a furnace. It's pretty much like, just like, how do I explain it? The known is born in the unknown. When you realize that, it's a complete contextual worldview shift. That means your whole life you've been like, I know this, I am this. This is everything I know, and everybody's saying, like, all agreeing, okay, this is what knowledge is. Like, your whole life you're acting as some sort of stumbling ideology of a character in a story. Oh my God. It's like, there's sometimes I look at my past and I'm like, man, I was such a deactivated, conditioned entity, like I hadn't understood freedom because I was latching on to just one psychological position. And there's even this concept of self-sabotage. And what self-sabotage means is that your past possessed your future. Excuse me, your past possessed your present. Self-sabotage means interfere, that it means in the past you thought like something was right, and now in this moment it's wrong, but you still identify with that past. You understand? But it's all about psychology, and I'm telling you, at the core of your psychology, the most, let's say, I guess, I don't know, let's say, like, simplest way to talk about it is that it is a central point of awareness. And I see why this is like what the ancients called the heart. Okay? And divine context means we're in the world of a higher being, but being officers of the stars means we're reaching the highest rank of our universal institution. But anyways, everything has its own, I don't want to say it has its own reality, and a reality that's not its own. There we go. Everything has its own reality and a reality that's not its own. I gotta write that down. Everything has its reality. Everything, okay, whatever. Everything knows its reality in a reality that is not its own. Something like that. Is not its own. What does this mean? You don't own the unknown. None of us do, and they're trying to act like they own the unknown and they can limit you. But the whole point of it is not is that if you get limited, like, man, like, that's your fault, right? And and sometimes the limitations are there to kind of like, notice the limitless. Divinity is a journey towards the limitless. Being an officer of the stars, it's like, think of it this way, divinity. So let me tell you this, a divine lieutenant is like an inner realm rank, and an officer of the stars is like an outer realm rank, but it can notice also be an inner realm rank, I guess, but I don't know. The future's gonna explain it. I'll be back, guys. Okay, I'm back. Sorry to interrupt the viewers' meditations. The viewers are meditating like Marcus Aurelius. Yo, imagine an actual general is like listening to this. I'll be like, nice. This is a good talk. But the question is, where does it all lead? And I need to play a song that fits the theme of this lecture.
I wouldn't say that I'm...
Okay, what the fuck? Here we go. So, let's take this somewhere. So, dear listeners, all I'm talking about is the concept of, let's say we've ventured into the metaphysical, uncharted regions of human conception, and we're wondering about something that is ahead of our time. And we're wondering about something that is ahead of our time, and what that is the human psychology realizing that it can be more responsible for more than itself, more than its species, more than its planet, and eventually enter the stars. And to be honest, let me tell you something funny. I think even all billionaires know this, but the technology to take human beings to space is probably 1,000 years behind. Okay? The proper technology. All right? So that means right now it's like a young child trying to run in a battlefield, and it doesn't make sense. Right? So the child has to grow at home. Right, and all human funding should go towards the advancement of human civilization. In an advanced civilization, there's such advanced ranking systems. You wake up in a world, and this feeling you have right now in 2026, in the background, that empty feeling of like, yo man, am I just being here for myself? Well, guess what? In an advanced civilization, not only has there been an advanced scanning of potential found before it arrives, but it's all about, right now human beings are being born in random places on the earth with random talents, okay, and all of these are going to be organized. And imagine at some point in the future there will come a very advanced class of human beings, and their advancement would be so far, even beyond our blind spots, that only the hearts that saw beyond time knew them. And that means those hearts are not their own. It's the heart of hearts. It's the presence of the world being in the original attention, right? Through my own inner realm understanding, this is how I can explain it, okay? And I'm going to explain it to you, not as some sort of absolute thing. This is just like a designer sharing a blueprint, okay? To me, this whole cosmos, the way I figured it out and what it is to me, is it's a command. We're in a commanded universe. I am someone, and specific to my own life and my own soul, one of the most fascinating ideas I talked about very, very early on in my lectures was the idea of the advanced communicators. And I was a very introverted and shy, a child growing up. Okay, but there was something, I was harboring within myself, some part of me that was like inactive or behind some sort of, self-psychological exile or something, and it was as if I began appreciating the value of communication, to how throughout the years, now I understand it is the world of human beings we're talking about when we're wondering about where communication is going. So it is one of the most fascinating art forms, because it's the art form that gives meaning to these biological programs that think immortality is the way, only to realize that's just in one horizontal axis. You've forgotten the vertical, the hilarious Cartesian transcendental joke that you think your value is only based on what you see, what you don't understand, like all of life right now, this is like where I am. I'm in Toronto, Canada, you know, in my house, and I was just like wondering, where is all of this? And if like this is, I mean, this is not a reason why, I don't have kids and I'm not married. I mean, there's, that's something else to talk about later. But what it is it's that if right now any member of the human species, this is the level of, I guess, species level of observation of honesty I've had, that if we right now ask all human beings, where are you? They're going to be like, we're on Earth. Okay, where is Earth? In the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, where is the Milky Way galaxy? It's in the universe. Where is the universe? It's in the you only have access to the observable universe. And the account of it, even though that it's meaningless to give a measurement, is just no more unknown than known. But it's like 95% of the world is unobservable. Some of that percentage is dark matter, some of that percentage is dark energy, whatnot, And so the whole point of it is that this place is more unknown than known, and human beings are still hurting each other over what they think they have to know. You understand? And so right now, it's like language, which was something that back in the day, was an innovation for its time, was a winning strategy. But in 2026, it is now causing the modern energy of the human being to loop, right? And to be limited. And so now we've reached the time where language is attempting to self-sabotage the species, so human beings are not activated that far. So but I would tell you, because I have a love and hate relationship with language, it's equivalent to, like, I love it when I use language as a tool. I hate the identification with language, because it's legit like a chain. That means if you wanted to chain invisible titans, you would probably use language, right? You have to use a technology that is more invisible, right? But the whole point of it is, like, we don't want any unnecessary wars. That's what I guess in my books takes someone to the summit of the most advanced command. Okay, that means we have officers in the military, right? And like a general is the highest rank of an officer, right? 4-star general or something. So the whole point of it is, it's like, as I mentioned earlier, as it goes up, the responsibility levels are higher. But if we were wondering about, let's first go through the celestial militaristic imagining, that it would legit be like right now. Imagine, I'm not going to name these ranks because there's too many, but and there's no way I can it needs actual existential time to happen for them to merge those ranks. But what it is think of it this way. Let's rank souls in a strangely militaristic fashion, even though we don't know what that level of militaristic responsibility would look like visually. I think it's too big to visually know. But what it is it's like, okay, you have a member of the human species. That member of the human species, everybody is starting as, technically the term would be, a private. That means you're responsible for yourself as a member of the human species. If, as you advance and you find new capabilities and discover talents of your own future selves, which you didn't know, at some point, the responsibility goes for more than your own soul. So you become not responsible for you. Let's say you get a pet. You become responsible for the conscious, not just for your, let me use the word consciousness. You become responsible for your own consciousness. Then you become responsible for the consciousness of, let's say, your pet. Or then, let's say you start a family. You, as a family man, you're responsible not just for objective or subjective experiences of your family, but their consciousness. That means to be a family man based on your, like, how many family, like, let's say your wife and kids. It's as if you're responsible for 3 more universes, not just your own. And it's like you're trying to advance 3 universes or 4 universes, let's say, basic household of a daughter, son, mother, father, right? So imagine it's like what it is eventually, like that's the whole point. And the parents are advancing the universes of the children when they're young, because there will come a time in old age where their children require to advance the universes of their parents. Do you understand? And if a person thinks it's burdened, let me tell you, you're not of civilization 2.0. If you think that something shouldn't be done because it's like, yo man, who has the time? I don't feel like it. Why should I do it? If you live like this, I am telling you, you are already hollow. You're living on a hollow earth. And the hollow earth is not hollow when there's a heartbeat on it. So that means use the strength of your heart. The heart is not just some fluffy thing, some fluffy feeling. It is that for love. For example, what was it? It was for love that, like the battles of Troy or something began. So many wars have begun over love, right? Why is that love important? Because love is access to a greater universe. But it doesn't mean it. That means think of it this way. If I love Earth, okay, and we in our cultures define love as like fluffy, like, I don't know, fluffy hugging versus hugging level visual, or caring level visual, right? But I'm saying, if right now there was an extraterrestrial invading my species, right? If I love this species, it doesn't mean I need to behave in a loving way. It means that I have to, my actions are coordinated in accordance to the furthest reaches of my awareness. And as a conscious entity in this unknown realm, and it's all about scanning it. We're all scanning our lives, into meaning, but we have to ask ourselves, where is the greater value of all of this, right? And that's when suddenly the word divine becomes a great clue. So then let me paint the picture for you. It would be like, okay, I'm just gonna go through it very quickly. Let me find another song. All right, man. These songs. Oh my god. Okay, this says Tokyo 2099. Oh man, it went. The song's kind of growing on me. I don't know. It's like the song's telling me to continue. All right. So the whole point of it is, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through the staircase of like being a human being, attempting to try to see like what this militaristic divine ranking system would look like. That in other words, it's inevitable. Humanity will realize what it has not realized yet. That is the beautiful thing about life. All this stuff is here to be noticed, because why would it be shaped? Why would there be a shape without eyes? Why would there be form without awareness? And what is the grand mystery that we're all in, and we're hiding in caves of language? You understand? It's as if, like, for me, it's hilarious. There's all this unknown world left here, and human beings are fighting over resources on Earth. There's different universes out there. There's freaking other galaxies. The Andromeda galaxy is right beside us, and we're still like, no, man, I want this part of Earth because it's cooler. It's like, I want that part of Earth because I don't know of what. It's nonsense. They don't see the future. There should come a law that only a futurist should become like the leader of a nation. If they have to come and share, not their policies for now, they're going to come and share their, that means if they were an immortal politician, like, where would that vision go? Like, what is the, and I'm telling you what's funny is that human beings can try to, their egos can try to possess their whole moment, but because the ego is a part of the moment always overpowers it. What the moment is your presence. But this is where it becomes very tricky to talk about it, because it is dehumanized. There's many paths to think of it this way. Aside from our state of consciousness, everything's technically dehumanized. We're keeping ourselves human by consciously functioning as the archetype. But now I'm being like, okay, how far does this archetype go? What are the true mysteries of this world? Where were our eyes before we opened them? So we have a human being being responsible for itself, then it becomes responsible for its family, then it becomes responsible for its city, then it becomes responsible for its nation, then it becomes responsible. This is where I'm like we're behind schedule, but the species needs to run to this day, right? Where you become responsible for your species. That means racism was not like, it wasn't prevented, it vanished. It vanished because human beings elevated to a very superior level of acknowledging the value of human beings being able to be conscious agents that can direct their unique energy. So in other words, to me, it's like, even if like it doesn't matter if the person was like whatever sort of ethical standing the entity, let's say the soul has, who in some sense wonders about control in this world, eventually you will realize you cannot deny advanced potential. That's what gets the world mad. When divine potential gets denied, that's when, like, not just the planet, the dimension starts roaring, like wild lions, right? So right now, it's very fascinating because human beings are upon a very unique path. Behind their eyes, it is a divine ranking system. In front of their eyes, it is a celestial ranking system. And eventually, the celestial ranking system opts into the divine ranking system, because let me tell you why. So I'll keep going. You became responsible for your nation, then you became responsible for your species, then you became responsible, after we became responsible for humankind or mankind or whatever we like to call it, let's call it mankind, because we've been using that for so long, right? But let me say it this way, humankind, let's go with that, humankind, right? So we have humanity, right? We are in some sense being responsible, we've united all humans and we're responsible for humanity. Then we become responsible for all earthkind. That means the greatest technology in the food industry would eventually, in the far future, I'll give it like maybe 400 years, I don't know, maybe earlier, maybe like 200 to 400 range, but eventually, right, we will have to shift from finding a greater source of nourishment, okay, than other biological entities, because in the same way we don't want AI to like kill us, destroy us. In the same way, we must start behaving, and there's no reason to even destroy something that took so long to be here. Do you understand? That's the madness. That's what gets the world angry. When it took so long to, in some sense, make its hair, and then we ignore it. And then the kettle boils. So the responsibility is still on a planet level. So after mankind is united, earthkind is united, then we go to skykind. Then that's the era of sky cities. You know what I mean? And there's even a transcendental activity in our skies too, but it's weird. It's like the whiteness in our eyes is a clue to the whiteness of the clouds. I'm telling you. But anyways, beyond the sight of man, eventually, or let me not say it yet, it's still not beyond the sight of man. So you become responsible for your species, then you become responsible for the whole earth, then you become responsible for the sky, for skykind. You become responsible then for starkind. Do you understand? That's when we would have, as normal as we're sitting in our homes on earth right now, it's going to be as normal as this to live on a space station. I'm telling you. It's like, it doesn't matter. Child born on a space station doesn't know anything else. Normal seems to be, for most people, their starting point, or they hope to be. So After responsibility off planet, imagine we became responsible for our solar system, we became responsible for our galaxy, we became such an advanced species, we became responsible for the whole observable universe. And imagine, I'm just saying philosophically, let's go further. We become responsible, we're left after becoming fully responsible as a species, advancing and fully responsible for the whole observable universe. That means we're ready to go beyond the 5% of the observable universe into the 95. And the hilarity is the 5% and the 95 is only to our consciousness because it's in a dynamic where there's uncharted, unknown territory. But to the whole 100%, regardless of if you make it a coin flip or not, just how fascinating is it that instead of thinking what's in the world is alive, you realize the whole world is alive. So we become responsible for our universal sector. We become responsible for other galaxies. We have diplomatic and civilized relationships as the first species from our galaxy. Let's say in the far future with the Andromeda galaxy. It's like, there's something there. Something beyond our eyes. But the double discs have already given their sermon beyond time. So what it is that traditionally we have this view, or we are kind of conditioned and we're trying to make ourselves singular all the time. And we think ourselves as an individual. And it is true, we are, but that's because we're in the bliss of the ignorance of the context. That means how can you be a self and be responsible for yourself and not realize you're simultaneously being responsible for part of the world? It doesn't even have to do with responsibility being, or discipline being something specific. It's all about okay, what can intelligence do? You can create, maintain, or destroy. These are the three things you can do. Now, what the advanced are trying to do is they realize that you create and how do I explain it? Human beings, we're afraid of death now, but it's kind of like we're afraid of a teleportation device. It's such a cool song. I don't know, I feel like my soul's doing parkour on planets, on different planets. It's like, yo, did they just backflip into another planet? Behind our eyes, anything is possible. In front of our eyes, it's like we gotta figure it out. And people are like, who were inventors? Those who cared, they cared. They cared for the might of their species, no longer embarrassing itself by acting insecure in front of a cosmic audience. You understand? At some point, the whole, imagine we became responsible for the 5% of the observable universe, then somehow we became responsible for the rest of the 95%. So imagine we became 100% responsible for everything that constitutes a world, both unknown sectors and known sectors. This is where, after the celestial, you go to a divine. The divine is there from the beginning, but this is where it becomes conscious as a soul. Imagine, or I should say as a soul, as some sort of unknown conscious force that you are. You become responsible for the simulation. And then that's when you truly remember how original you are. They're like, dude, are you being original on Earth? I'm like, dude, the whole thing is an effect of an unconditional original cause. And to me, this is the essence. I gotta tell you guys this. If you ask me again, right now, yo, Mr. Within, how do you see the world? What's your ontology? My ontology is that there was an original, unconditional, causal state, cause and effect, causal state. So an original, unconditional, causal state. And this, there's a command, as if imagine from an original, unconditional state of being, a higher power gave a command, and that command is still happening. And we are, that command, imagine, brought you into the position of a simulated, check this out, of a simulated, conditional, effectual state. Do you understand what that means? That means we're like the end game. We're like the conditional, we're like the existential end game. Sorry, not the existential end game. We're technically, think of it this way. The beginning game and the beginning and the ending are the same. Because it's all like an original state where a simulation has arisen, and the simulation has nowhere to go other than to return to its original state. That's why the cause and the edge of the cause and effect is the same moment. That means before your life, this is my hypothesis, through my experience. That means if somebody says, let's say they say, Mr. Within, where were you before this life? I'll be like, I was at the end of my life. They're like, why? And I'm like, yo, have you ever wondered if time could be a circle or a spiral? Yo, there's fascination there. But anyways, beyond that, I mean, I went off topic for a second, but what I'm trying to tell you is that imagine a command from an original. That means imagine an original, unconditional state, and from itself it gave a command. So, okay, let me see how I can explain this easier. I'm saying that, okay, let me change the song for a second. This is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, imagine there was a system admin. This system admin, again, was unconditional, and it is the original state. This original state has no creator. It is uncreated causal state. Okay? So, because if it was created, it's an infinite loop. So it becomes a fallacy. That means what created that, the cause never ends. So the only way there's meaning here is if the cause was not caused. So technically, to us, that's the bizarre paradox. It's like, yo, paradox is just everywhere, man. It's not just in holy books, it's everywhere. That's how we know. It's like paradox means we noticed both edges of the duality in one moment. We just drew a line and held it from its edges. So there's an original, unconditional, and this is so important, the word unconditional, state. That means unconditional, like we're conditional beings. We're living in conditions, we're adapting to the conditions of our world. An unconditional being means it's being regardless of any condition. No, that means it is more causal than the condition. Okay? So this is the causal state, this system admin, and just to simplify it, even though there's mods, but let me say it this way: the system admin created users. We are those users. So an unconditional, original system admin, it can't be limited to any condition, okay, created a conditional entity in a conditional world, and now that entity is hovering there. It's roaming there. A conditional user. Now, the deeper insight is it's conditional because it's keeping itself conditional to some degree in the inner realms. In the outer realms, the world is giving its condition. That means the moment I ask myself, what world am I in? The answer's not world. It's not in words. The shapes are there. The form is there. This house is on somewhere right now. I'm somewhere right now. And now this is very fascinating because then it becomes a philosophical tug of war between what is a location even. Do you know? Like, am I a psychological? Is the world a higher order psychological program, or is it a higher order physiological program, or if it's just dehumanized, is existence meaningfully meaningless or meaninglessly meaningful? Do you understand? There's at some point man goes beyond the dualities that his character in the story is living in. That's true scholarlyhood. That means once you're done with the outer skies, which is where the celestial ranks go up to just the limitations of the world room, beyond the world room, that's the divine ranks, and those divine ranks are not given. That means they are not known. Some imagine there's a higher world, and some higher world realities cannot be known from lower worlds, even though they can be noticed and seen. Their presence can even be felt. I need a break, guys. I'll be back. All right. Is someone giving a lecture here? No. All right. Don't we all? All right. So why do we feel lost? Alright, this song's actually too intense. Let's go back to this. I don't know why I feel like I should just play the song. Or what about this? Let me check this out. Oh, no. Okay. Alright, whatever. Started with this song, I'll keep it. So, I was telling you, there's an unconditional original system admin beyond the simulated reality, okay? There's a simulated imagined world, and that's a conditional world, but to us, that's limited, and the edge of the known world is the unknown. Right. So anyways, let me just say it from me. So an unconditional, original, causal system admin created a conditional, simulated, known, unknown technically, but at some point it knew itself, and it used language as a sort of garb to, as a sort of costume that it forgot it was wearing over centuries, you know. But it created users. Okay, now we users, we look at our lives and we're like, okay, what is this? Right? And what we notice is, one, we are a biological program, and it's a conditional one. You can't avoid it. You gotta look in the mirror and look in your eyes and be like, all right, I'm existing now, and then you will realize how vast this world really is. So the users are in a biological program. Another word for that is a physiological program. And let's say evolution freaked out, okay, and instead of just limiting itself to visible strategies in regards to adapting to the environment, what it began doing is it realized an invisible position of self was the greatest visible adaptation. So evolution has treated it so bizarre that we're like, dude, the prefrontal cortex we got an updated prefrontal cortex, and we suddenly wore suits and started building skyscrapers and spaceships. Do you understand? Like, there's something here, okay? And it's way weirder than just being like nature created us, because we're a moving nature. There's something else. We can't ignore how, in some sense, just like a photon can be seen as a particle, whereas a wave in a field, the wave in the field is closer. One day you'll realize when I say your inner realms, because they came and called it a mind, individualized it, right? They hid the spirit in the mind, and Mr. Within broke that box, and in some sense I don't know, in my universe, I've restored it to the inner realms. You understand? That's a way more healthier option. For me, human psychology begins from like legit, we're at the center, in front of your eyes, outer realm. Variables, both known and unknown, conditional and unconditional, you got to deal with. The unconditional is where the divinity is at. What many people don't realize it, because they think to be that life that they think still they're the main character. As your responsibility level goes up, the general that is responsible, or the officer, technically, they're all like officers, after a certain point. But what it is that the general has no time to be like, okay, dude, what do I want? What do I feel like doing? No. The general has to be like, okay, immediately, this is an information game. I got to get all the variables. I got to see all the probabilities. I got to wonder about what my enemy sees that I don't see, and why do I even have an enemy right now? Is the enemy just an enemy, or can it be converted? Or what can happen? Is like, So I'm telling you, I'm like, I don't know. I'm saying this from my inner realms, But to me, I kind of feel that in the 12 years of giving this podcast, I've been I guess indirectly, in a sort of solar hidden way, in some sort of invisible battlefield with language. So for me, right now, they're like, people, if you ask people, are aliens invading and controlling human beings? Everybody's gonna be like, nah, man. But let me tell you, I'm strangely, for me, to me, language can become an alien, just like an alien controls you. Language can control you, and language is kind of an alien technology to me. And just to have human beings limited to sequential processing is a shame when the world contextually can shift. Because most let's say, I don't know, let's say thinkers, let's say inner realm viewers, or most minds, let's be old school. Let's say most people, man, like most people, they stabilize their sense of safety and like feeling like there's something based on a fixed context, right? That means it's like, yo, man, how are human beings having stable psychology on Earth? They're like, oh yeah, I'm on Earth. There's a Milky Way galaxy, and it's like, the cool thing about, like, I was somebody who was raised in the city, so it would be equivalent to like, dude, it's like I have my room in my house as a home. I have my whole, like, when I was a kid, my parents' house as a home, and then my parents' house is inside the home of the city, and and the city is inside the home of the nation, right? And it's like, okay, there's so many layers, like it's like kind of onionized, a sense of safe, like security, right? Right, but at the same time, as there is that expression, that ancient expression, the cost of a new life is your old life. That doesn't, that it kind of means like, we should honor the past, but not at the cost of the past denying the future. That's when it gets weird. But anyways, so we're these conditional users. Now, I told you that this whole cosmos is a command, but from our perspective, it is kind of like, imagine an original being commanded the existence of simulated beings. This simulated being started existing, and now it's like a round circle. The simulated beings have nowhere else to go other than their original state. Everybody's not walking to their graves. They're simulated entities walking towards the original state. Where else can they go? Do you understand? But now the question is, what is our relationship with the original state, right? And why? And at least humanity has, we know the heart. There's true, works of the heart in all large works of mankind. Why? Because in some sense, how do I say it? We don't. It's like the idea is to not forget the past, and to not, be blinded by honor only to the past, but to understand that the greatest way to honor the past is to actually reach your future. Because why else? Why is there time? Why were there human beings before us? Why, like they say, in the last 300,000 years, there's been 117 billion humans. Why weren't they immortals? Do you know what I mean? Like, why weren't human beings immortals? I could totally imagine it. Because I'm a mortal being, I could just fathom the opposite, right? I'd be like, okay, man, what would I... It's like people are being like, man, what do I do when I get old? I'm like, buddy, if you were immortal, what are you going to do with time? What are you going to do with time itself? What are you going to do with this world room? And to me, if there's seasons and cycles on Earth, like, oh my God, there must be like seasons and cycles on a macro celestial level. Right? So the point of it is not explore the world until you find truth. Exploration is inevitably the natural agenda. Consciousness emerged in the nature of a world that was just unconscious. That means we were this biological entity, this organism, just clawing and growling and just like moving its way towards something. And little did it know that there would come a time in history where it would realize and suddenly notice it. That means the prefrontal cortex was legit like teleporting into a different universe, right? Like the awareness of man beyond his environment. And let me tell you, we did something once, the species forgot it, and so, like, souls like Mr. Within are here to remind the species. What did we do that we've forgotten? The way we stepped out of the food chain was we managed to access a context beyond how the ecosystem was forcing us to know the context. Do you understand? That means we saw something more, and most likely it was memory and the ability to share meaning. That means human beings, like a human being against a mammoth, okay, it's like that's like Mortal Kombat fatality, you know, like mammoth wins, you know. You know, but if one human being goes to a bunch of other human beings, it's like, guys, let's like sharpen the edge of these branches and all of us attack this mammoth at the same time. So what does that mean? That means the human being was not limited to the environment, like lesser, like I shouldn't say lesser animals, they're like sleeping animals, you know, and we woke up beyond that natural environment. Okay, and right now, with how the human species is behaving, we are behaving unnatural to nature. Do you know why? Our unnaturalness is like our achievement. We were dying in the jungles until some dude was like, open up a hotel. So man's ability to notice design, to be able to compare the various moments. You know, one of the most fascinating realizations I had is that the body is not what individualizes, even though we think it's all happening due to the brain. You know, to me, the brain can't tell the difference between an inner realm form and an outer realm form. That means if you see a bottle, okay, if you see, like, how do I tell you? If imagine, like, I tell you to look at a tree, imagine there's a tree in front of you, and I tell you, imagine at the top of that tree, there's like a glowing orange basketball, like, you know, the size of a car, you know. So your brain treats the visual in it, like if you close your eyes and visualize that above the tree, or your eyes were even open and you visualize that above that physical tree in front of you, you're gonna notice your biological eyes. It took a while for me to notice this. For your biological eyes are still gonna move as if they're treating a form they found as real. So I'm pretty much making the argument that the body just is just processing form. It's not the power, the agency that is compartmentalizing it and dividing it. That's something else. That's something deeper. And the way I found to explain it is that we're a node in a field. That's what our body is. So it's like an antenna that is picking up signals and then can in some sense regenerate or reprocess or reform these signals within itself, right? And it's very fascinating because it's not like God just created, or the system admin beyond this world room created just meaningless geometry. It needs to be activated. It needs to be unlocked. The purpose of consciousness is clear. Why is there a world here? Oh yeah, to see beyond it. That's the advanced civilization. That's the advanced humanity. That's civilization 2.0. Just the feeling of like, dude, the furthest reaches of the visions of our species is beyond time. That means not only fathoming how it would be like to build an advanced civilization that's advancing at the speed of light, but to realize that man's greatest understanding, that means if they're like, yo, what is the greatest thing that a soul can understand in a world? That its world is not limited to its understanding. That means that's really the intellectually, like, you know, like scary anguish like part, okay? That all human knowledge is the eyes, is how every human being's expression on earth was their strategic response to all the variables of their world, right? That means every person, to me, survival is a strategy, you know? But the issue with survival is that now people are surviving, right, where in their inner realms they should be building. Right now, everybody on earth, they shouldn't be doing, like how do I say it? I'm not against capitalism, but I'm saying, like, it's a distraction if it's not centered around the values of honesty and advancement. Do you know what I mean? That means I saw it in my inner realms that in the future there's going to come an era of honest marketing. Right now it's freaking BS that people are like trying to, like, marketing is an exaggeration in this era. There will come a moment where the greatest marketing campaigns will be just like the owners of the company. Like, guys, I created this product. I had this problem. just come and buy it, man. Like, this is a good product, right? Like, actually explains it and says that. It's like, okay, this guy was honest. Like, that's why I can trust the company, right? But companies that are selling low quality stuff, this is this is like all over the planet. Okay, they have to exaggerate to become equal, to be able to be compete in the market. You understand? And this stuff is nonsense. Just be honest before we all like leave this world. Like, what's the point? Dishonesty is like, dude, how many simulations? Like, you already are in a physical simulation. Being dishonest is like, dude, what? You're gonna like maintain like what, thousands of inner simulations of different rooms you are to different people. Impossible. Just like function with the original data, right? For me, it's like, dude, like, let me tell you this. If somebody tells me Mr. Within, even though you are, let's say, as I mentioned in previous talks, I'm like a Muslim futurist, but I see Islam, like my values are based on my inner realms are so different that I can't even consider myself as like a normal Muslim, right? But I could say it this way, that only the beauty of Islam is that the system admin only knows. The system admin is the superior point. Human beings have an option to, in some sense, engage with beings in the simulation, or their intelligence can come make contact with the original state. And why do you think all those beings were meditating in the Himalayas? Why do you think souls contemplate? Why do you think questions exist? To usher man to see beyond this world, for where do you think he came from? Got goosebumps saying that. All right. But God knows best. That's the whole point. We should not forget the unconditional. That means, for me, I'm like, dude, like, we just have to quickly assemble the armies of all conditional entities in the universal sector. Immediately make them all realize that the purpose of life is actually not just worthiness through repentance or realization that you are not the king of the world that you can't see. You are a position at best, like we're all like kind of, if you're responsible for more than yourself, we'll call you a divine lieutenant. If you're responsible for more than one soul, but like parents to me are kind of like divine lieutenants, and their children are expected to be like, divine, privates, right? So private is the term of the most basic level in the military, right? Like Saving Private Ryan and all that. So how is it a command? So I'm saying that this whole world and all worlds in existence are the communication of an original being, okay? And the effect of that communication, how it's being received, is in some sense assimilated. So we're starting, we don't know how the original got us to this moment, how we journeyed. Let's say we don't remember how from the original state we journeyed into this current simulated state. But it is a matter of right now, to us, our starting state is simulated. Again, simulated body, and it's even deeper than that. Like the world, like think of simulation as beginning, ending, has beginning and an ending, right? Even though we're starting in the middle of a simulation before we were born, but to us, that's like a beginning, right? And our ending, all of that is still in the middle. Like that means the life of the species is way longer than the life of the individual members of the species. That's just how it goes, right? Eventually it may, like the whole point of it is like, all right, man, there's something here rather than nothing here. And it's kind of obvious what we need to live for. We need to care for the position of the intelligence of the world currently, Okay, and everybody's starting in their own world. If you become, so to become a divine lieutenant, you got to be able to be responsible for more than your own inner realm. And that's when you realize you can become compassionate, and all your anger issues or miscommunications with people kind of go away. Why? Because you realize it was never about you understanding them or them understanding you. Every person is starting in their own universe. If they can go beyond their own universe of meaning, they find themselves in a sort of neutral, unknown state, and that's where all the true scholars who have pulled this Excaliburs of their own simulations out, are standing. So that means the highest state in a lower level. The highest state in a lower level is the lowest state of a higher level. What a beautiful sentence. But that's how it goes, I think, or at least it appears to me. So now, me seeing now. I need to keep going back to this notion of the command. I want to just pause the music for a second. This marching music, like I usually like marching music, like music you can march through. Even though I don't I can't march through long run. I've been marching in the inner realms though, towards the edge of time. All right. Guys, I'm just trying to say that, okay, as somebody whose mind fathomed the notion of an advanced communicator, I managed to somehow see like this whole world being an advanced communication. It's an original state, and its communication is the simulated reality, and the simulated reality's communication goes back to the original state. Okay, now on its way back to that original state, what does it even mean, that original state? That original state, because it's unconditional, we can't figure it out from the box of existence we're in. We can't figure it out from inside our world room. So imagine you're inside a box. You can't use what's inside the box to know the nature of what is outside of the box or why the box is there. We need to enter the outside of the box. But the strangeness of it is the outside of the box. First, it can't be done from our ego. Let me tell you why. You don't even want it to be done from the ego, to like go explore the world egoically. Let me tell you why. Because, oh man, what was it? You don't know. You can't notice what actually. You can't notice the ontological reality if the epistemological reality happens. What does that mean? That means, let's say you reach and let's say you're attending an unknown moment. If you notify that moment, if you make that moment known in your own way, you'll never get to see how the world would have moved before you moved it. Pretty much, like that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so that's why the ego is very limited. It's limited to itself, because it's trying to validate itself in every moment. Okay, right? And that kind of leads to weird berserker psychology if you get it out of uncontrol, like if you don't have it in control, right? That means it's like, yeah, I get it. We've had to physically survive as an individual, so now we think we have to psychologically individually survive, but the psyche is not like an individual body. Subjects are not bodies. They're all appearing in a space of awareness. Right, so the subjective reality is not happening on Earth, it's happening in the whole moment of the experiencer, which Earth is experientially in. See the difference between the inner realms and the outer realms is that the inner realms is your own private server. Like right now, nobody, let's say if two people were standing beside each other, or whatever, let's take the concept of a date, right? A girl and a guy are on a date. They both have their inner realms. Okay, but they're in the same outer realms. Now they're trying to figure out how each of them looks at the world, or how they, or where are they, or if they're smart, they figure out where they're going, or how far they're seeing, right? Now the inner realms, right now, there's a kind of divine privacy policy to it, but inevitably, I think, like what we call, or we're like, yo, telepathy. It's like, dude, that's just realizing we're not that limited in the field, okay? Because our presence is, how do I say it? Like, we usually filter our whole moment through our personality. But if you for a moment realize your personality is just a part of the moment, like just a cloud passing by based on that moment's energetic conditional response, and you start becoming fascinated by the, not just the unknown, but the unconditional, to me, that's one of the most revolutionary words ever. Like, just think about it. It's like, why do kids watch superhero shows? Unconditional strength, unconditional speed, unconditional, I don't know, ability, right? So because it's so obvious we're conditional entities, we praise the unconditional. So logically, if in the far future they're going to advance beyond conditional responsibility, they're going to try to become responsible for the unconditional, but that's an impossible act. So it's like creation trying to become responsible for the creator. So that's the turning point. That's why some religions are like, dude, you got to put your ego, or you got to keep, take off your ego like shoes before entering the temple or the mosque, or on the prayer mat. The whole point of it is that the relationship of our own being is limited to our conditions and the conditions we fathom. But religion brings forth this notion that what is conditionally here was unconditionally generated or commanded or positioned. That means religion is a relationship of a simulated conditional entity with an original unconditional state, which technically was the birthplace of the world before there was a world. So it's like, where were selves born? Oh yeah, in a world. Where was the world born? Oh yeah, in an unconditional field. So what does that mean? The moment we hear unconditional, it means it can never be humanized. Because the human is a condition. That's why we say we're in the human condition, right? So what I'm saying is becoming responsible. We're right now, think of it this way, we're conditional entities in a conditional world room, which we can't see the edge of that condition of the world. We can't see the edge of the world. Now, as we become responsible for all conditional sectors of being, we will realize that there is no way to be responsible for the unconditional, and then you realize the unconditional is responsible for the conditions. And that's when you no longer are just a person who prays, or a person who tries to follow a religion just like a robot that was programmed but it doesn't know why. You follow it because your heart, your simplest being, or let's say even at the dawn of your inner child's innocence when you were born, right? It's like, I'm telling you, at some point, the private realizes there's officers. And right now, this is the very fascinating thing I'm saying. This is going to blow the mind of the New Age community. But it's like right now, we're visible private soldiers. This is just a metaphor, but we're visible private conditional soldiers on Earth. And imagine we realize there's invisible lieutenants and officers. And this whole system, we think we're on Earth and our freedom is limited to our meaning and even the meaning of our species. But beyond that, it could be that we're already in a very complex ranking system. Do you understand? But it's veiled to us, like a child in a cradle that doesn't understand the complexity of the household where a family unit is functioning. The child grows up eventually and becomes a member of that family consciously and becomes responsible and starts caring. That means when you're young, you don't want to take out the trash, but when you at some point you realize, no, it's all about participating in moments. Like if right now, let me tell you, if somebody tells me Mr. Within is getting rich or getting the most pleasure or getting like not like all the knowledge or discovering the secrets of this world more important? And I'll be like, more important than that is the memories I create with my family and also with this species. You don't get it. Like when you realize there's the soul is like the most advanced tech here, then like humanity is priceless. You don't get it. We try to price it, but we try to, like somebody drew this picture of Earth and in outer space, and above it said trillions and dollars in debt, and we're like, who? So, dude, this is my interpretation. First of all, someone. Okay, first of all, there's activity in the chat section. I appreciate the engagement. It's been 2 hours. No way. I thought it was 15 minutes. Not kidding. I'm not like that fast in my inner realms, but my inner realms are faster, so it definitely feels less than 2 hours. Someone in the chat section says, is the idea of ranking intended to give meaning to each person's main character fantasy, to give meaning to the mundane, or is it a legitimate belief system? Let me say it this way, man. Ranking is necessary when there's different hierarchies or a spectrum of expression. Because if they're all the same level, they're all the same rank, so there is no need for a rank. But if we're in a system where there's, let's say, higher levels of intelligent activity and lower levels, right? Like we have me being able to speak right now, like you see how you're hearing these words, that's like a level of intelligent activity. But in my inner realms, what you don't see is I'm seeing like film snippets and film previews, like in my mind. I'm visually seeing this stuff. Like, how do I explain it to you? It's like I'm seeing a film and I'm putting it in words pretty much. That's why, like, I can endlessly technically give lectures, Depends on the content in the inner realms. But the whole point of being a conscious soul is that you can direct it. And the most important thing to direct it to is questions, right? And so the question you're asking is, I would say it that my whole argument, the whole thing I've been sharing here, is that there could be invisible ranking systems, man. And think of ranking systems as, so think of it this way. Any organization has an organizational chart, okay? And that organizational chart starts like, I don't know, the owners, board of directors, C executives, and then, I don't know, it trickles down to like employees, right? So think of it this way. First, you have an organizational system, okay? In that organizational system, you have different levels of activity, all right? Each level has different responsibility, This doesn't matter. Like, you could see ranking everywhere. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you can even look at, there's a ranking in the family. My grandmother has a greater rank than me. Do you understand? Do you know? Anything she tells me to do, I do. You know what I mean? Even though she's told me to get married, that one's like up to God. But I'm telling you, the whole point of it is, and it's beautiful to have this ranking system where, what are you, like some weird freak of a clone living in just one level of a value system? That's weird, right? Like, thank God there's ranking systems, right? That means there's so many levels. Ranking. The ranking system is more of a testament to like an organizational hierarchy of ability in a system, okay? So for me, my parents have a higher rank. But when I was younger, I only was like a private that was just being responsible for my own inner realm. I was just valuing them based on what, at that time, I gave meaning. But eventually you realize there's so many systems out there, and you are existing, and everybody's existing in these systems, where their meaning of this system, or the reality of that system is not limited to just what means something to you. And it's such a cool feeling, because you wake up one day and it's like every person you see, you go about your day and you're like, dude, These are all unknown beings. And this whole place is an unknown place. And it's just in this range of our consciousness that these relationships simulate into meaning, you know? And guys, by the way, I remember I developed a strategy for this, just to let you guys know. Like, if you don't, like, it would break my heart if you get distracted by my personality when we're all in an unknown world. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? The whole point of it is, I have noticed the purpose so much. Like, I think that's what it is. I don't know how, but some part of me somehow, I don't know, I can't say like, on an objective, subjective level, but I feel I know the future as if this me hasn't been there yet. I don't know how to explain it. It's a feeling, okay? But I know how to map it. Like, I've legit for 12 years, like, found an incredible ability to, like, I guess, I don't know, map language in regards to visual sectors. Eventually the world will be filled with sectors, right? I'd give that 100 years, that kind of ideology is going to brew, where people are going to realize, okay, responsibility levels are limited to experiences, and not everybody needs to be around everybody. Why? Like, for example, this is going to sound strange, and this is not, this is just, I'm commenting on just a futuristic abstract vision I got, all right, where I saw that children will be in a different sector than adults, okay? And whether AI is training them or one thing, until they suddenly make contact at some point, when they become adults, make contact with other adults and they step out of that sector, okay? And there's going to be sectors, okay, of, think of it this way, the sober state, okay? There's going to be sectors where everybody in that sector is living a biological, healthy state. In one vision, I had I don't know who was it. It was Plato, Socrates, one of these dudes that had I think it was Socrates who had the notion of a metropolis, right? Where it started from the center, like think of a concentric circle city, right? So to me, that center of the circle city would actually be the healthiest, natural, and most utopic part of the city. As it extends outward, okay, it's going to change, right? And it's going to be different levels. So what does that mean? That means, imagine I'm in, it's the year, it's the year 4028, okay? And let's say you're a human being born in the sober state, okay? And let's say you, as a child, you, let's say, graduated into adulthood, so you stepped out of that sector. Right now in the adult sector, you're in the sober, healthy, original, organic state. Imagine, right? And imagine you, but there's still the freedom of other options. Okay, like, it doesn't mean reality is inaccessible through knowledge. It doesn't mean they have a greater knowledge, but it's probably orchestrated or like organized by AI. Okay, but at least that's how I'm imagining it. But what it is if the person is a smoker, for example, that smoker can no longer stay in the sober state. If the person suddenly starts becoming an alcoholic, okay, they can't stay in that sober state, or any sort of alteration from the basic healthy biological original natural human being, right? Even the environment's going to be very natural and forest-like, right? And then these human beings are going to step out of the central, like, main circle in this concentric, like, onion. Imagine, like, the center of an onion, right? Where that's like the sober, like, the center of it is the, let's say, sector for children, and then the sober state, and it's all natural. Eventually, if somebody wanted to venture into the other side, they would eventually come to more unnatural, right, sectors. Right, and eventually at the furthest reaches, it becomes more dehumanized sectors. So in that way, we build like if this was a sort of kind of like, let's say, blueprint model, just one let's say method. Like, there's so many ways to probably look at it, and so many more advanced ways we don't even know yet. But or maybe they're beyond my time's reach. But I'm pretty much telling you, we are conditional beings, and there's a reason they say the words unconditional love, unconditional purity, unconditional faith, unconditional courage, unconditional justice, unconditional, let's say, freedom, right? And those are very advanced levels. And the more it goes towards the unconditional, the more we journey towards God. That means the more God conscious you become, the more you realize how the unconditional is moving the conditional, rather than the conditional trying to make the unconditional mean something to it. It can't, right? So we are like these simulated created beings, right? Like my, again, body's simulated, the world, the planet I'm on, like this planet is simulated. It has an expiration date, let's say, or like say it's simulated as beginning and end, right? Or let's say it was just simulated, right? And also like the words I'm speaking right now. I mean, I do create new words in my lectures, but like new concepts. But at the same time, the majority of the words I'm using were created before me, you know. So I'm telling you, we're all inside these simulations. The realest thing is our decisions and us moving and all that, right? So that's hilarious. The energetic organization of how phenomena is like, I gotta tell you, like the realest thing is the thing that moves itself. Like that's the cool thing about humanity, right? There's something moving here. Now I keep it as an unknown force, but human beings are trying to just humanize the whole cosmos, and they're like, why doesn't it make sense? And of course, because the moment you have the dehumanized arena, right, it means, dude, we just hit the infinite gold mine of possible intelligent interactions all over the cosmos, right? And they could be very dehumanized. This new game I've started playing, like you guys can go, I'm probably gonna go play it afterwards, right? It's called No Man's Sky, and it's called that. Like my brother introduced me to this game, fucking epic, like epic game. Like, excuse my language, but like effing epic game, man. This game, it's epic, but it's not. It's epic because for somebody philosophically minded, I would make, let's say, even more so, because it's called No Man's Sky because there's no humans in it, and it's so far in the future or something that it's just like it's different alien species or AI species in it, right? And you go and explore different planets and whatever. So at some point we might hit No Man's Sky, legit, like literally, but that's gonna be far, maybe like above 10,000 years or something, But anyways, no, it's gonna be way more than 10,000. It might be like millions of years in the future, right? And in like what, 4 billion years, we have the Milky Way Andromeda collision. Like we should have a good view, like the species should have a good view of that, in the far future. But like, dude, new neighbors moved in. Oh yeah, it's the whole Andromeda galaxy colliding with the Milky Way galaxy, Somebody said Milkometa, but I think that's a conspiracy of milk companies. I think people wanted to sell milk, and they were like, call the galaxy that. No, I'm kidding. Actually, the concept of milk was very celestial. Like, there's a lot of mythologies where there is that. Even in the Islamic universe, there is the visuals of paradise, heaven, being rivers of milk in green gardens. And people are like, is it exactly that? I'm like, guys, you don't get it. The whole point of heaven is that it's an unconditional state. Why does it have to be limited to that? The whole notion of it is you are being tested, but what does a test mean? What is a test? It's like, okay, they want to check something. It's like, dude, the higher power's checking in, Honestly, what it is is I'm treating it this way. I'm like, okay, contrary to the popular belief, let me just treat it as if it's a commanded universe. So if a being commanded me, if an or unconditional original being commanded me into existence, technically, and that's really in the Islamic universe, at least, this metaphysics is acknowledged that there's a verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful. There's a verse that says the soul, it's giving a description of the soul, like a clue of the soul to humans that don't have the unconditional, the system admin's eyes. But what it is saying is that the soul is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means it is the command of the unconditional original system admin. And man knows but a little, which means it's unknowable. It's Mysterian. It might not be knowable the true extents of what our soul is, because we didn't create it. We're being it. Okay? But this is why in the Islamic universe, there's also a verse that says God is closer to you than your jugular vein. It means the system, the original state, is closer to the simulation than the ego is closer to some world of truth. That means to me, if they're like, what sort of heaven are you going? I'm like, if my God, if God, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unconditional, that means there's an original causal state that no condition is equal to, no effect is equal to. Then why am I expecting an effect afterwards? That's why faith answers it. That's how advanced the holy books are. That faith means, okay, what can you do in a world that you didn't create and you're not just moving? What do you do when you opened your eyes on the shoulders of a giant that is running? Faith becomes the stable ground for the principle, for everybody's principle, universal philosophies to sprout from. That means it is our trust in the unknown that, or how do I say it? It is our ability to discriminate, or I guess notice the unknown, that we are like, okay, we know this so far. All right, guys, I need a break. I'll be back. If anybody's gonna head out, thanks for listening, but I'll be back probably maybe like 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Alright guys, I'm back. Somebody says sorry to bug you. You're not bugging me, don't worry. You just want you to not think you're alone or let you know you have deeply at least me and 1 to 2 people. Dude, 2 people? Yeah. I know, and the way they think and the way look at life will stop distracting and commenting. Oh, I don't chase you. Dude, don't worry. To me, think of it this way. Every talk is like a lantern with a different glow. Like, it's like, do you know what it is? It's like, think of it this way. It's honestly like a musician vibe, right? Like, not everybody vibes with all kinds of music, even if the music is still good, but it doesn't matter because I've realized that, like, I'm like a simulated being here for some time, and then the talks are gonna outlive me. That's the coolest thing. Like, to me, it's like it doesn't matter. Sorry guys, give me a second. I'll turn off the light here. By the way, guys, afterwards, when I'm playing No Man's Sky, like, you guys can come on the Discord. Like, I can, like, we can chat while I'm gonna go explore planets in that game. Anyways, back to this, and the idea of this, and I found the perfect song, by the way, here. There we go. See, there's one essential idea here that's just like, it's at the core of what I'm talking about here. Like, it's also something that's fascinated me, right? And I'm going to go back to it. Pretty much I'm saying, like, okay, what if the whole thing is neither physical, it's like a communication. Like, you see, we have an objective model on the reality, right? Where, like, it's an objective physical place that is like, I don't know, that is like edgeless. Okay, but at the same time, we can have a subjective view that the whole world is not just made of objects or a sort of existential activity. It's made of also, like, we think of it as made of subjects, and it has a sort of, I guess, subjective activity. Pretty much I'm saying, could all existence be a communication of an original state with something that I still can't see the full picture of, but that communication has come to the human being. My inkling, my gut tells me that it's like this origin. Imagine, like, okay, this is let me bring it into an abstract universe so I can easily talk. So this is very abstract. Imagine there was an original being, okay, and this original being, okay, communicated something, and it's inside its communication, like, one word became conscious. Like, suddenly that it's a communication, the whole thing, right? And the word understood that life is not about what this one word experiences, but what this one word is a part of, right? And that's the greater rhythms, or how philosophers were like the spheres, like the greater spheres or whatnot, right? So the whole idea is we're here thinking we're notes, and the note is just a note on a piece of paper, but we're actually the music that is being played here, right? But it's being played in symphonies beyond our understanding, right? So to me, I'm like an experiential instrument. I don't know, playing an existential play. Oh man, but what I'm saying is that it's like, let's just entertain it that it's a communication, okay, and that communication, like, the original being is communicating something. Now, that communication, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like original state, original creator state, communicated, let's say commanded or communicated a simulated creation state. Now the simulated creation state, when it's noticing itself, okay, where else can the simulated created go? Where can the simulated effect go? You understand? Now there's one school of thought that says the effect disappears like an echo, but another is that if the echo was heard, it can't disappear. It's going to lead to something else, right? So to me, it's like something journeyed. I should say like this, but whatever. Let's say there was a journey from the original state to the simulated state. We don't remember this, but now from the simulated state, we're going to the original state and we can remember this. Like that's consciousness. Consciousness is like opening your eyes in the middle of a film and then realizing, dude, am I acting in this film? Like, what the fuck? Who's directing this? And then you realize the way it's being directed is beyond the film set. And that, man, it starts becoming like more of an unknown place, you know? You know, guys, you might not believe it, but I feel like I'm going to give another lecture maybe in a couple hours, and I don't know how I'm going to have the energy for that, but like, okay. But I feel like I'm going to. I don't know why. But anyways, we'll see. So guys, the whole lecture, anyways, whatever, I was just saying that the whole universe could be a communication of an original being to some sort of, to something, and whatever that something is like I don't know, at least we realize like, okay, man, we're simulated. Like I used to be nothing, man, when I was younger. Even before when I was younger, I used to be nothing. Now I'm like some existential phenomenon, and the whole body is like functioning under the book of life, which they call DNA. So the whole shape of my body is actually the expression of a pattern, biological pattern. It's like geometry's greater extension from a microcosmic level to a more macrocosmic macro position, right? And now as this existential biological entity, I'm like, okay, what am I doing in this world? This becomes like a freaking, contemplative. It's honestly, to me, the coolest thing in a conditional known place is just unconditional unknown. It doesn't get cooler than that. So it's about human beings having, so it would technically mean this because we're born and we start from our bodies. So it would mean that let's say this, human beings are conditional, let's say they're conditional beings. They can have a relationship with other conditional beings, okay? Now they can also have a relationship with the unconditional. Or I can even make this more complex. We have a self, we have a world, now we have a conditional self, that's like your body, and you have an unconditional self, that's your soul, okay? Or an unknown self, and the conditional self is like the known self, whatever, right? Excuse me. And then you have a world, this self isn't just chilling alone, it's in a world. So then you have a conditional, you have a conditional world, that's Earth. And then you have an unconditional world, that's heaven. So to me, like the way I've decoded religion is that it's trying to it's first telling a conditional self in a conditional world that it's an unconditional self, and that unconditional self is actually in an unconditional world. Do you understand? That means from this side of the coin, dude, I'm a shape in a shaped world. From the other side of the coin, it's like an unshaped presence. I don't know even if it's separate. It's probably not separate. It's probably just unconditional field of being, right? So this is funny. Immortality is actually an illusion between eternity and the finite self. So infinity is an illusion. Infinity is like in between eternity and finity, the finite. So pretty much I'm saying like after, so, and how do I say this? I'll give you an example of an infinite being. That's an immortal being. An infinite being's definition is technically like an immortal being. Like the dude's like some immortally like roaming the cosmos till the end of time. So that's like infinitely being in infinite moments. It's an infinite being, right? So an immortal being is an example of an infinite being, but a soul is an example of an eternal being, because the soul's, first it's unknowable, but if you go see in many traditions, and the word soul comes from the word breath. So in many traditions it's like that, right? It's as if like they saw a human being stop breathing and they're like, did something leave that body, right? So but anyways, the whole point of eternity is that it's unconditional continuity. The whole point of infinity is that it's conditional continuity, okay? But being finite is kind of like temporary continuity, right? We're temporarily continuing here, and it's kind of like life is even like a bell curve for a biological organism. When you're younger, you're like, you have lower energy, right? And less wisdom. It's like in the middle of your life, you're kind of like, I don't know, you're peaking, and then it's like where the archers like throwing the best arrows from the median point of the bell curve, the middle of the bell curve, and then at the end of the bell curve, we're getting old, right? And it's like, if all of life is seen as like directing energy, like you're this energetic position for some time, and you can direct this energy, this container of energy you are, right? The way the intensities of it are different throughout it. So that means it's like each age, yeah, is like hilariously its own universe of time. I don't know how to say it. Like, to me, honestly, age is legit, like, at least in the inner realm, psychologically, it's behaving like a bell curve. That means it's like this. It's, to me, this is hilarious. It's, if we knew the end of our lives, and imagine somebody knew they were going to live 100 years, it's like from 0 going to 50, and then from 50 going back to 0. That would be the bell curve way of acknowledging time based on our actual capability, right? And in the above the bell curve, not at the middle, but above the bell curve, all that area. So I don't know. Okay, you know what? I can show you guys. Should I bring? All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Why not? Why not? Here, I got a whiteboard here. You guys are gonna see my whiteboard, all right? Let me first check this. Hold on. Let me see which way the video is. Kind of, Okay, there we go. Okay. Look at how good this wall is, guys, all right? Okay, now you come to this board, all right? Whiteboard. And I don't know, I just wrote this quote from Carl Jung, like, I don't know, I think 2 days ago. I guess maybe you guys were meant to see it. Unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Pretty much he's telling everybody to wake up, and like that's a sophisticated way of saying that, all right? Oh my God. All right. So, good thing I came to the whiteboard. What was I even... What did I came here to draw? Just dry erase. Let me... Nope. Man, I think I took the black markers away. I got a blue marker. Let's work with that. Okay, so... What did I came here to show? it escapes me. But there was one thing I wanted to show on the whiteboard, guys. You know how I told you I drew a map? I'm going to kind of draw it here, and it's going to be a little bit strange. You guys can see this, right? So this is the kind of map I drew. I don't know if I can do it. It's like, yeah. Okay. Now this is, imagine here, just so people's minds don't go somewhere weird, right? Okay. So imagine it's like this, okay? And imagine this is Earth, okay? So, I don't know if you guys see, let's say we have Earth here. Let's say up to maybe this level here, something like that. This is gonna sound insane, all right? But this is hell. This is the hell. This is, here, let me bring a red thing. This is the, like, imagine a sort of, you see that? Like, that's the sort of, like, imagine the loop of the lower unconscious realms, right? You see that? Right, so I'll come here and say, this is not a good thing to write here, but here I'll say lower world. Lower, yeah, I don't know, here, lower world. Okay. Yeah, okay, this still looks okay, whatever. Let me keep saying. So this is Earth here. We have, I'll put E, and then I'll come here and put, I don't know, L. All right. And then imagine this over here is the original state. And then this, all the way it comes down. I don't know how to draw it, but maybe, I think logically would be something. I could do it both ways actually here. That way people won't be weird. All right. Okay. Nah, it looks okay. This doesn't look like, doesn't feel like. Hold on. Oh my God. Don't fall. Oh my God, how long is this gonna take? Right? Okay, there we go. It's a better system. I'll redraw it. I'm just. Okay, guys, hold on. I gotta get. The whiteboard was too much. Viewers had to leave. All right. Thanks, guys. You know, they're like, we're not gonna leave you alone. It's like 0 viewers, bro. All right. Let's try. See, I don't know why. Here, whatever. Let's draw that again. Cause this is Earth. Okay. Hold on. Oh my God, man. They're like, Mr. Within, you're working so hard for 0 viewers. I'm like, it's 0 now. Let's hope it's not 0 before I die. I'd be fucked up. Nah, it's not zero. Who knows? Sometimes when I give these talks, I got once a vision like it was in the far future in some battlefield. Some person was like listening to one of the talks. All right. So the red is, let's say, the hell loop. And then you have heaven here. Okay. So this is imagine, I don't know. I think, yeah, let's say that's heaven. And right here, this is, this, oh, sorry guys, this over here, all right, that's earth, right? So let me explain to you what I've drawn here. Okay, so what is the idea, right? If we're here, the whole, oh my God, I misdrew mine, all right, whatever. Okay, how do I explain it? It's like all these beings that come up from hell, okay? This messed up way of talking about it. Let's say all beings that are climbing from the lower worlds, the lower looping, you see that infinite loop, right? They're in like some lower dimension, imagine, and they're looping. And they come up to the level of earth, okay? And it's not like all are coming from down to up, okay? And that means there's different classes. So you technically have like, you know, angels, you have humans made of clay, which is, I guess you could see it as a metaphor or not. And then you have, you know, technically it's demons, but in the Islamic universe they call it, here, let me, you know what? Let's be equal here and just call it higher forms of being, okay? Higher lights, there we go, and lower shadows. I think this is a universally good way of talking about it, okay? They're looping in like the shadows of the world, okay? And then you come to earth and like, you know, there's a change of direction, right? So the whole point of it is right now we on earth think like, nah, man, if we see like, you know, lower beings or evil beings, we gotta go and destroy them and crush them. And yeah, that's what humanity's about. It's like, no. Eventually you're gonna realize everything is heading here, right? And in actuality, I should draw it like this, that it's like this. Everything in a divine way is moving this way, and this is the original world. You can call it this, or heaven is the median point, or beyond this is like, I don't know, all beyond this is just system admin, okay? It's the system admin beyond this, right? See, the whole point of it is, on earth, okay, you can descend, right? If you're ignorant, right, you can descend. And if you go into this is like an unconscious, unconditional loop. Now, a healthier way to state this would be that, let's say, what would hell be interpreted as for a secular person, not a religious person? It would probably be the unconscious organism that was just looping in its environment and just clawing its way and just, you know, just like not having consciousness, let's say, like an unconscious loop. That's what I'm telling you, right? I'm saying that it's like, it's a looping conditional state. Okay, this is not, this is loop, or not loop, or maybe I should, my God, I misdrew this. This should be like this. There you go. Okay, man, I'm getting tired of rolling this. I think you guys are getting tired of seeing this. But the whole point of it is, from Earth, okay, you can go to lower worlds and feel like a higher being, or you can go to higher beings and higher worlds and feel like a lower being, okay? And that it's pretty much the difference between humility and arrogance, right? Beings who feel they're like in higher states in their world, they become arrogant, right? But they don't realize they're like the lowest state in a higher world than that, right? Eventually, I'm saying like, yo, we're starting like here, okay? And then from here, we're starting from here, okay? Let's say we're starting from here. And based on our decisions, we can either loop, let's say civilization 1.0 is looping, right? Or we can come and notice and be like, okay, let's have a relationship rather than with who we were or our effect, right? Let's have a relationship with our causal state. Now, the causal state, I can actually draw it. I think I remember what I came here to draw, actually. Right, I came to draw the bell curve, actually. All right, okay. The bell curve, or it actually explains the causal state is like, hold on guys, hold on. So we have this like bell curve of life, okay? So we have here time, and we have here energy, okay? Time and energy. You guys see that? Now we have a bell curve. Not bad, not bad. Okay? This ending is kind of effed up, but it's good. It's okay, it works. All right, now in this, I'll come and use the red one. Hold on. Dude, is it dying? What is this? It's dying, guys. It's dying. But it's going back to its original state where there was no ink. Okay. Okay, here, I'll use another one. Seems like an interesting moment. All right, now I'm going to use this color. So this is where you start off, all right? You're born here. You cry like a baby at this point. Okay? And at the middle of your life, right? In this point, okay? Okay, I'm gonna use red. Weird markers, all right. Whatever, I'll go back to blue. Okay, so you have the beginning here. Okay, then you have like, okay, I drew the too big, but you have the middle point and you have the end point. So here, okay, it's like, let's say 100 years, okay? And here we have 0 years. This is, again, spectrum of time. So let's say 50. Let's say 50 is another point, but I would say it's probably like where I am at now. It's probably like mid or late 30s. All right, but whatever. Like I felt at like, I don't know, 34, 30. Like I'm going into 35. Like that to me feels like I feel like at the midpoint. But whatever, right? You know, the other day I thought I was leaving this world. You know, so that we have 50 years here. Whatever, it could be 50. This could be like, I don't know. This could be 80, whatever, man, whatever. But the whole point of it here, you have the highest level of energy, all right? And then here, you don't have like consciousness, and but you have let's say your energy's going up, right? Here, you have consciousness, but your energy's going down, right? And this whole area, all right, this whole, fuck if F, all right, whatever. This whole area, you see this? This area and this whole area is what AI is gonna come and help us with, all right? This area is gonna bring it up to this like level of standard, right? You know, usually parents are bringing us up to this point, and after parents, like at some point, I don't know, society, whatever, information, everything else, right? So at our midpoint is like the most advanced moment of our life, right? We have the highest energy, and what do we direct this energy? Where does this energy go, right? What should you do with this, right? And for me, this is where I'm going off to a different topic actually, but anyways, I explained this, all right? AI is going to be here. This is the bell curve. This is the middle of life. Your whole life is you're trying to manage energy, okay, across time. And at the middle of life where you have the, let's say, I don't know, let's say it's the best time because you have the most energy. This is where it makes sense to create the most. You know, it all, and but the challenge is you also get like conditioned by civilization. So if you were in an advanced civilization, it would be a pure this, but maybe this becomes like, I don't know, I should use the green one. Like this green line becomes like some freaking random, I don't know, like something like this maybe in civilization 1.0, right? Or I don't know, whatever, there's depression, anxiety, or whatever, right? But the whole point of it is, right, where from zero to the midpoint of our life is the preparation phase. This is the performance, and this is eventually, I guess, you know, as you get old, you get to see what the results of what your energy moved here, right? And the whole point of drawing this picture was I'm saying that going towards the system admin, right? Considering from this is the unconditional state, okay? Then this is the conditional state of the man's soul, right? So this is the simulation, right? This is where our soul has nowhere else to go. It was simulated into like a human body, and then from the human simulation body, it goes back to original state. But here, if there's, let's say, mistakes made, it's kind of suggested, I guess, in different contexts throughout different traditions. But this is where if you're ignorant, how do I draw this? There's something else I can draw. So let's say we have second, third, fourth, and it's like this. Okay, probably it's okay. Now these are the dimensions. Okay, these second, third don't. I'm not talking about it in regards to physics. Okay, I'm just saying. I could have said like 3, 4, 5. I could have said 7, 8, 9. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying. I'm just using these. All right. So, but I'm saying, imagine we start here, right, in like this third dimension. Okay, third level, right, and we have fourth level here, and okay, I know, whatever. It's like this. Okay. So I'm saying that if you're here on Earth, you either increase your responsibility levels to access. Do you see how it's way more? Like the space of it is way more. So more responsibility is like more, being responsible is going to higher reality. Okay. Now, if you choose not to be responsible, arrogant, right? You are like the lowest point of the fourth dimension here. Sorry, you're not the lowest point. You're like, okay, if you go down through ignorance or sin or that which dims the moment, all right, you're gonna feel higher. Like if you look down, you're like better than all the second dimension beings, right? If you look up, you're like not better than all the fourth dimension beings. You see what I'm saying? All right. So I'm saying that it's up to you. To me, evil billionaires, do you understand? Like they're probably going down a rank. They're gonna be deranked if they're destroying like something they don't understand. Okay, but those people who, let's say, care for humanity, because what else is there to do here, right? At least from a visual standpoint, right? So we gotta care, right? And I'm saying the cool thing about responsibility is that's why you require humility, because you're not gonna be like, this is the cool thing. It's like would you rather be a great person around not great people, or would you rather be the least greatest person around much greater people? So the answer is this. This is that's like a wise choice. Anyways, I've drawn too much in my, it's like my biceps getting too jacked. Like, but I tried something here, guys. Appreciate it, I guess. You know, this is, I might do this again, you know? This might be my workout, just like hold the camera for 30 minutes in this hand and then the other hand, like. And do you see everything goes back to the original state? Do you see that? And is that not divine? It creates new space for what? A new reality, as the French don't say, you know? So. Sometimes our fears are misplaced because we've forgotten how unknown everything is. But I guess the last thing I can tell you, because this has gone too long, pretty much, I want to tell you something about unconditional love. This sentence was lingering in my mind that I realized this pretty much maybe 4 days ago, and it was so fascinating. Like this week or whatever, like in the last week. But what I realized was, I'm like, dude, let's just for a second consider that we have an unconditional creator, and let's apply the concept of love. So let's say that God is an unconditional being. So God, if it loves its creation, it would be unconditional love. And then for a second it occurred to me, if I want to get closer to God, or to that original unconditional state, then it makes sense to that original state or being. Like, it makes sense that I love myself and my whole moment, which is my full self, which includes every archetype that my consciousness has ever seen, right? Unconditionally. That's the most revolutionary thing, that I'm like, dude, I'm not loving the world like how God loves the world, or how an original being loves the world. I'm loving it based on condition. Oh my God, was she nice to me? Did she say this? Did that person do that? It's all conditions, and conditions change in every era, right? So to me, that's the fascinating discovery, and the whole point of this is that the militaristic strategy, or let's say filter, or the way we're seeing it, like I'm explaining it right now, like the concept of divine lieutenants, a divine ranking system, technically meaning a metaphysical ranking system, even beyond the physical world room, even though a celestial ranking system is still inside a physical world room, So I'm saying that when it comes to the divine ranking system, you realize at some point you are not like in charge. You are being, how do I say it? You're not just guiding, you're being guided. Okay, and that's the deeper reality, that if man in the known sectors, or in the known state, is conditionally trying to solve problems in unknown states, maybe those access to those truly is through the unconditional, and the unconditional means it's not through our own condition. So technically, yeah, I think both, even in analytically, we're at the mercy of the original state, at the original power. So what does that mean? That means a person can do whatever, think whatever, but the world is not working in accordance. If it was a command, this is a commanded simulation, it's not working in accordance to the laws of like physics or whatnot. Those are just commands inside commands. What is the original command? If the original command came from the unconditional cause, right, then the only way to the unconditional perhaps is realizing that the test is for us to, I guess, unconditionally be. This doesn't mean immortally be. It means unconditional being means like, what is an unconditional being testing conditional beings that have unconditional souls? It's like to realize that the original authority of all conditions of existence isn't an existential condition. It's not a conditional being, which means there is no conditional meaning. We can't plant the flag of knowledge at the edge of the world that is like, do you know what I'm saying? So this really makes it like very simulated. Now the question is, the clue I'm using, like what I'm using to not get bored out of this existence. I'm like, okay, everybody's inside the box. We can't know why existence exists from inside it, and to access outside of it, technically by definition, means we're not inside it. If inside the box was conditional, and that's where the definition is, so technically it means the truth might not even be accessible to a conditional entity, the whole truth, you know. Or if it is very unique protocol. It's like unique source code in that individual's ego code. But anyways, the unconditional, guys. So I've already decided, you know, the world became a much simpler place after a few days ago when I realized, all right, man, it's all the scares, everything that like has bothered human beings, it's just for them to be like, dude, this is just a condition. It's just a conditional reality. You press this note, it makes that sound, for example, on a piano or whatever. So it's just conditional. It's like a structure. It's like we're in a structure, and I'm just sharing to you guys that this structure is not just visible, it's invisible, and there's even a greater invisible to that invisible. That means if subjects, like right now, I have a pen in my hand. If you were here, you'd have visible, like the object is visibly accessible. But unless I communicate, the subjects behind my eyes are invisible, or the visions I'm seeing behind my eyes, they're invisible, right? They still exist. They still have form. They're still different than the outer realms, but they're not as tangible as me being able to, like, you know, imagine a cake and then like actually, like, you know, like it appearing out of nowhere. It doesn't happen that way. The cake is just there in the inner realms. You know, I could throw it at any face, but it doesn't matter, you know, because what the inner realms are facing is actually a sort of acquaintance, and the system admin created users so they can become familiar with it. Like, your mind is here to help you realize the unconditional. You know, like, that's why we have imagination. Like, the whole reality was misintroduced because they don't get it. Like, let me explain this to you. Right now, if somebody tells me, like, who am I, or like the basic answer, like when somebody asks someone who they are, they share their backstory, okay? But their backstory is just like, it's like a character in, it's like a self in a world, and that self is the concept and the world is the context. The issue is that all these worlds were separate, their meanings, but now because human beings are living together and there's shared meaning, the context is the same. Now the issue is the future generations are being born in this world, and rather than going and exploring to see how valid their story as a character, like the meaning of a character in a story is, they just limit it to the validity of others. Like, you know what's dangerous about seeking permission outside of yourself sometimes? You understand? You don't know its will. That means, I'll give you an example. Is it better for me to go check and see if let's say I want to go to a grocery store in the evening, and I don't know if they're closed yet, but the light is still on, right? And imagine somebody goes there, right? Imagine I'm going up to the door and somebody's walking from the door, and the person's like, dude, the store is closed. I pushed the door, it didn't open. You know, or I pulled the door, it didn't open, right? Now, I have an option here. I could trust these beings who had reached this conclusion from their own inner realms, which I have no clue if their inner realms is accurate or not, okay? Or I can go and legit try to see if the door is closed or not, right? And that's the issue of modern civilization. All the, like, many moments that require authentic exploration, and these are not just physical moments, this could just be your conceptual standing to your own self. Like, what kind of story are you living in? What kind of character are you? And you got to make sure, is this character just looping? Am I just trying to be who I wanted to be in the past? Or do I understand each elevation on this mountain of life that we climb provides a different view? You know, that means technically, based on where myself was, my ambition was different. you know. So it's very fascinating. I mean, I kind of mapped it out here, but ultimately, this ranking system, I've spoken about this idea too in other lectures, that the educational system right now is like teacher, student, classroom, and lots of paper being wasted, and like assignments are meaningless technically, they're just being stored, right? But in the future, there's not going to be a concept of a teacher or student. It's going to be a massive ranking system. That way we can honor the little academics properly. You understand? And that means if a teacher, if there's a student, okay, and the student says, teacher, do you have all the answers? Or teacher, you're awesome, you must be correct, right? The teacher's gonna look. Oh man, the coffee's cold, all right, whatever. The teacher's gonna look at in that advanced civilization, the teacher's gonna be like, listen, kid, right? I am not your teacher, you're not a freaking student. We're all explorers in a world that we named to know. The teacher's gonna enlighten the kid by being like, dude, I'm not a teacher. You're not a student. We're just these unknown souls that have emerged in these formats. And now we're all wondering, what is the individual most advanced state for the individual? And now what's the most advanced state for the collective? To me, I have spent many nights wondering about the collective because it's more exciting. The individual is kind of like, all right, man, it's who knows. Like right now, it's so funny because I have found a peace, like a peacefulness with my expectations are no longer limited to my individual beliefs. That means God's world is beyond my mind. Why am I reducing it to my mind? Because we human beings fear the unknown and think we have to be some sort of sentence of knowledge at all times. Like if I can't write down who I am in a sentence, it's like, that's not me. It's like, what nonsense. Even Ludwig Wittgenstein said, like, the limits of my language are the limits of my world. Hafez, from this Persian poet from 800 years ago, said, the words you speak become the house you live in. What did he mean by that? That means your consciousness is either limited and still boxed in the language that gives your life meaning, or your attention has moved beyond the language. And that's really what it is. And how do you know you've moved beyond your awareness, has moved beyond the language? Language doesn't define you anymore. For those people who language defines them, you come and say a different language, they go berserk. That means if somebody, like, let me tell you, I've noticed this, and I'm not judging anybody because I don't know what their inner realms are to even be able to judge them, but I'm just saying, how do I say it, like, as responsibility levels for a conscious being increase, it is starting from responsibility levels. I'll just say this now, guys. Its responsibility levels are first going with conditional realities. The conditional realities are known and unknown. So what does that mean? That means, as I hear, let me show you guys this. Check this out. This is what I drew earlier. It's messy. These are my messy notes. Do you guys see it? You see how I drew this up? Let me honor the viewers with a new way of writing this. You got a self. Whoa. You got a world. Oh my God. You got a self interacting in a world. Like, you understand? Like, there's a line there. All right. Now check this out. This is where it's starting to get exciting. You have, oh my God, right here. You have unconditional conditional world. Oh man, I should have written underneath it. Whatever. Okay, you have an unconditional world, and you have a conditional world. And then here, I should have, yeah, whatever. You have Guys, sorry, it's weird holding a phone and writing. I've never done this. Area conditional self. Now, this is where it gets very exciting, okay? Because I don't know how to visualize it. That's how I know it's getting exciting, because visuals are become harder. Okay, so unconditional self. Now check this out. You have an unknown and you have a known. Guys, my handwriting could be so much better if I concentrate. I'm just writing this fast, okay? We have unknown and we have known. So that means, okay, and same thing with this side, right? You have unknown and you have known world, known unconditional world. It's just too much to write. I'll just write it like that. And then you have, oh my God, again, another unknown unknown. So what started as a relationship of a self in a world, okay? Now the issue is they have made the world fixed. That means they've only limited to this. They've limited everybody's reality. This is this area exactly. World, the conditional world, and the known side of it. Okay, right? This is probably like afterlife. This here is like the afterlife. This is beyond us. I don't know. This is probably unconditional world would be heaven here. This is probably heaven, but this is that right after death. I would say it would like what when the soul goes to the original state. This is like yeah, afterlife. All right. I know, whatever, you guys got it. Why this is civilization 1.0. This is the limited. This is where we're looping. Okay, this is where your world is just earth. It's conditionalized into language, and you are a known self. You're whatever your name is, right? And this is all the conditions, right? It's known, right? And I could have done it even on the other way around. I could have made these two the known, and then the unconditional and conditional here, but whatever, right? Now you come to the self. All right, now this is where it's funny, because they've been arguing and debating over this for so long, and it's kind of like funny and like at the same time waste of time. Like if I see another theist debate, I'll be like, all right, both of you get out of here. Get out of here, let the advanced humanity talk, you know? Okay, your unconditional self, okay? Now you have a known. This one again is this depends on your consciousness, but technically, because I walk through the Islamic universe, that's the only system I know that says the system admin is unconditional. But in the unknown, this is the soul. Okay, the whole point of it is this whole area is like the soul, all right? Unknown soul, all right? And where man knows little. This is the little part that man perhaps knows, or maybe this is even in the afterlife, who knows? But now you got a conditional self. Okay, now the unknown conditional self is actually the unconditional world, but I don't know how to draw it here. Okay? So your conditional known self, this is the adorable, like this is you here. Okay? This is Civ 1.0 again. Man, I'm drawing a butterfly, guys. You see that? Butterfly of consciousness. Okay, Civ 1.0. All right, Civ 1.0. How do you know yourself? All right, I got a physical self, okay, or a conditional self. This is, let's say, your body, or whatever. It could be, like your, your conditional self, and how you know it. Let's say your known conditional self, bro. That's your name, okay? This is like you're named here. This is like okay, yeah. This is the self that you have access to, just like we have the notion of an observable universe and an unobservable universe. This is the observable you. Okay? This is the observable you. Civilization 1.0 doesn't acknowledge these, but this is where me, Mr. Within, I'm like, guys, no, there's an unknown It's like the conditional self is unknown. There's more unknown. Okay? You're not just names on a piece of paper. You're not just a story, in an unknown novel. You're actually an unknown force. And you're actually what you are is an unknown self, same as this, right? But it's the conditional unknown. So this could be like, actually, no, let me say it this way. The conditional self, oh my God, I should have divided it like this. This explains it, guys. This is like kind of like that line I just drew. Below that line is like outer realms. I don't know. Maybe we could say above the line it's the inner selves, where it's more unconditional, because our imagination doesn't follow the laws of physics. I've imagined so many objects hovering more than a couple seconds, in my inner realms. Anyways. So, thank you for listening. This was a very long lecture, but I think I got the geometry out. I shared that idea. I shared the idea of like unconditionally loving your whole moment, like how the system admin loves the user, or how like love, like that's, I think, the value of the soul, is that you can love this world like a higher being. Like that's the whole point of the heart. The heart is not some fluffy, weird, like corny thing. The heart is just the suggestion of the presence of you in the higher reality. It's like, or think of it this way, it's the higher potential of you, and civilization 1.0 is just getting permission from the past. That's the weird thing about human psychology, right? Like and it's also because we're raised in the family unit, so pretty much like children, they ask permission from their parents, okay? Right? If the parents want to, like, I don't know, add like extension to their house, they got to go ask permission from like, the city, right? The municipal government, to be like, okay, can I get a permit and build this in my backyard or whatever, right? So they need to get permission. So the system's kind of designed that we're in all these groups, or like in concentric circles, okay? And we're asking permission from outside of us. But the fascinating thing about creative people, or those people who are, let's say, strange, why? Because they're not living and they're not trying to make the past's dream come true. You understand? They're not looping in the past. They're not getting permission from the graveyard to be a being that nobody in the graveyard ever could see. You see what I mean? So civilization 1.0, these are going to be advanced human beings who are going to start realizing that why are we just limiting our value system to just conditions? So it's going to be a complete unconditional revolution of every condition known to man, and realizing the unconditional is the great journey. Like that's the great destination. So to me, I'm not thinking of like not like heaven and hell, like as if like I'm not trying to decide out of fear, but I'm saying that to me, all right, man, what can a simulator do? Heaven for a simulation is return to the original state. Hell for the simulation is forever to stay in the simulated state. So that's why all those billionaires who are trying to be immortal, imagine they, like human beings, want to be immortal, they don't realize it's going to feel like hell. Because the whole point of it is like you're endlessly staying as a simulation. What if there was more? What if this earth, this world is just one of the levels? And so there could be, like, the whole point of this lecture, as I've written, where is it? And I'm wrapping up here, is that I've written in the description, what would a celestial or transcendental military system be like? Pretty much what I'm saying is, what would a celestial or transcendental organizational like macro organizational system be like? And the macro organizational system probably would be values beyond, I mean, the transcendental is beyond the celestial in the same sense that the celestial is limited to what's inside the world room or the observable universe, or the whole universe, and the transcendental is beyond the simulation in the world room, but it doesn't mean there aren't other simulations. Just like how, like the self is inside a simulation, it's not too far-fetched to think that the world is inside another simulation. But is that another simulation of self? If you think the world is inside a higher being self, that's like Vedanta. That's like more yogic way of seeing it. But for me, I don't know, there's something pure about the system admin. It's okay for the system admin to be unknown and unconditional because by definition, it's not limited to a system of its own creation, right? So we as users, and again, our body is like hardware, or let's say, I don't know, minds and stuff is like software. So the whole point of it is, why is there software in this hardware? Well, guess what? Every software, like right now my computer has software, its body is hardware. Guess what? A higher dimension is using it. We could just be higher dimensional tech, but we don't realize we're being used by the higher dimensions and not used in our limited cultural way, like used in the same way a musician uses an instrument. But it is the divine, let's say, unconditional will, right? We could be like, everything could be God's symphony, but God is not limited to its symphony, and the conductor's stick is not in this world. And destiny is a very interesting idea because it means, from God's point of view, everything has happened from the original unconditional state's perspective. Everything's already happened. It's only us that are getting to see it. So it technically means the original state is still the original state. It's just the effects that are realizing it again, I guess. So we're not just in any simulation, we're in an original simulation. I guess that's cool. And military system, all of this is just advanced conscious responsibilities. So let me show you this again. Right, so the militaristic system would be us being interested, you understand, or these states, but in the world still, right? Because anyways, the moment we talk about divinity, that's beyond the world. The moment we talk about let's say the celestial, like that's in the world to some degree. Anyways, thank you for listening. I think this was, I don't know if this breaks the record as like one, I don't know, I might have given a longer lecture, or it might be around the same time. But anyways, thank you for listening. And rise, mankind, rise towards the most advanced states, both in your inner realms and outer realms. Eventually, humanity is going to get bored of just generating meaning for itself, and it's going to look for meaning that is not limited to itself, right? There was a reason Vegeta and Goku were shouting like psychopaths, only to realize the moment they reached that higher level, they became calm. They became calm, and that's the same thing right now. Though like in 2026, it's legit like Vegeta and Goku just still shouting, and their hair slowly changing color to become Super Saiyans, right? So our species is in the middle of becoming a Super Saiyan. It's like shouting, like the world's freaking out. But eventually, as responsibility levels rise for the species, and we become responsible, the benefits arise. You don't understand. Things unlock. I'll give you an example. If right now, everybody on the planet suddenly became species level conscious and responsible, and it would be as if the world leaders are like, guys, what are we doing? We're all human beings, and the resources can be allocated to the nation of humanity, which all nations are a sub-nation of, which I've written about in my sci-fi and talked about numerously. Like when the United Species Councils emerged, it's pretty much like, hey, every human being who's trying to like territorially own a changing world, like calm down, and let's find the most efficient way the species can, I guess, allocate resources all over the planet, right? That this even equals like intellectual, intelligent resources, which we are. Like that's the value of consciousness. Not just we can move visible things, but we can also move visible things invisibly in our minds in so many different variations and probabilities, and see different possibilities, right? So to me, it's like we're this conditional simulated being constantly breaking out of these simulations. And then as we do, we notice the unconditional, and then we realize the unconditional was here before all the conditions. And that's why all the enlightened gurus are like, everybody chill and sit down and meditate, because in simplicity, you're not enforcing a condition on an unconditional original place, original moment of reality, right? It's kind of like the cost of being a condition is not accessing the unconditional. So if you don't conditionalize the moment and you just watch, or you're just present, you're going to suddenly notice things are not happening specifically to linear reason. Like that's some weird thing our species is doing. And this place is truly mysterious. And that's what gives us purpose to go figure it out. So anyways, guys, I gave a lecture. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful, the most advanced and the most loving. Humanity will be all right. It's just responsibility levels can increase, and they increase when you find a great purpose. Nothing has motivated me more than, like, I'll give you an example. Like, there are things in my individual life that like motivate me, inspire me, but nothing compared to species level actions. Like, you don't understand. I'm probably, like, to me, like, it doesn't even if there's like few viewers, like I don't know, very few people, right? It doesn't matter, because to me it feels like, okay, man, I have a position. I'm in this battlefield of all like these lost souls fighting over like which reality is true in this hunger game of storytelling truths. You know, it's like, what is the strategy? And I'm like, okay, first get the species to calm down. Then ask the species questions that causes it to wander and go into its inner realms. And then each individual, through their own experience, that's the way you can at least, I guess, cultivate, I guess, cultivate skill with the unknown through your own experience of the unknown, right? That means you're in such a civilization that not only they condition you, you're a noun, but your whole life you go on comparing yourself to other nouns, not realizing that originality is actually one of the most divine approaches, right? That means what is the new, what is the fascinating, and when you are conditioned to get permission from the past to constantly, like right now, and look at anything around you. If you have a word for it, if you have a name for it, if it means something, that's based on a past pattern. So to care about the future, to access the future is even unconditional. We gotta care for the unconditional, or we gotta care like the unconditional. Thank you for listening. Have a great night, guys. And rise, mankind, rise.